Good evening. It is 7:16. I'll call to order the October 10th meeting of the Weare Conservation Commission. My name is Andy Fulton. I'm the chair of the commission. We have 3 members present currently. Off to my left, we have Michael, then Lori, and over to my right, we have Bill. 3 other members for a total of 4 currently present. Correct. And we do expect to have at least one more member showing up shortly. But with that, I think we could address the first. We do have some guests in the audience, and Mariah, we're going to hold off on your discussion until Steve is here so that we're not too repetitive. Hopefully that won't be too much longer.
Yeah, I think he said he was going to be half an hour.
Right, right. So let's have a look at the minutes from last month. If we have any comments on those or a motion to address them, I'd greatly appreciate it. And thank you, Cheryl, for working those up.
That's Courtney.
That's Courtney? I thought her. Sorry. Is that N-E-Y?
Yes.
All right. Sorry, Courtney.
That was last month.
Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. All right. Anybody have any concerns or additions or corrections on the minutes?
Motion to accept.
Do we have a second on that motion? So we have Lori's motion and Michael's second. All in favor of accepting the minutes, please say aye. Aye. All right, that's all in favor. All right, Andy. All right, Mike and Bill. Let's have a look at our planning board item. We have a lot line adjustment. Terrence and Leanne Proctor and Claude and Deborah Raymond, 64 Reservoir Drive and 405 North Stark Highway. Lots 201-10 and 201-14.
And they're looking to do what here, Andy?
They're adding land right here to make it conform to the new zoning ordinance. It needs to be at least 2 acres. So they're adding this little slice of the pie to this to give it 2 point some odd acres, correct?
206.
Yeah.
2.06.
Which takes this down to still 48.15.
So it looks like a moving of roughly 1/3 of an acre. And a straightening to some degree of a significant degree of a boundary line. That's nice when you can just connect 2 existing
Makes it nice and
points.
plain.
Yep.
I don't see a problem with it. Bill, do you see anything? When you hit the circle with the well, it's just that nothing can interfere in this distance, is that the theory? Because this is somebody else's land. This is encroaching on, so my question is, if somebody else builds here, I don't know how this all works out. Are they now prevented from coming closer because of his circle on their land? Which doesn't make sense to me.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
new construction, we'd look for a well to be at least 75 feet off the boundary line on a
Okay.
existing construction, and many, many wells are tight to the line. Don't believe that the person owning the well has any rights over property line.
Okay.
They're at the mercy of your neighborliness, if you will.
Okay.
But yeah, that 75-foot standard is something you see a couple different places in here. And you judge by this that somebody maybe even measured to a property line before that well is drilled.
Yes. Now, is this house here or planning to go here? This is already here, they're just adding.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
No, that's two existing houses. And frankly, one oddball line that went through a shed, so there's
That has to be interesting.
more than one good reason to flip that piece over
Yes.
and make the arrangement. I don't see anything worthy of comment on that one. Anybody else? Good? Michael, Bill?
You write on that and send it back to somebody?
No, I keep that for my own purposes.
Oh.
And for over a year, I was doing the minutes, so it was my notes for my minutes to be written. For instance, July minutes.
Ah.
Those other people may have notes, but I have notes, and I'm halfway through writing those. My summer blew up on me, so it is way overdue and out of the ordinary, but that's what we got. Let's parade through the Wetland Bureau correspondence from the Department of Environmental Services. This is agenda item 3. There is acknowledgement of receipt of wetlands minimum impact forestry notification. This is for map 401 lot 35. This is a timber cut. And work is approved, subject to standard conditions. Good evening, Steve.
Hello.
Hello.
Sticking this way. Yeah, least resistance. How long, Bill?
Not too much, I don't.
Good. Sit over there.
No problem.
Okay.
Welcome, Steve. So far, we've just been through the minutes from last month. There's one lot line adjustment we had to look at. That was pretty sensible and minor. And just having a look at DES communications. First one looks like Hardwick's doing a cut in town that they got their minimum complete forestry notification. Second one, we have a shoreline permit application, 196 Colby Road, tax map 112, lot 168-10.
Is this the river?
This is for James Dow. And there are items to be addressed, including the fee, and a resubmittal needed.
So what are they actually doing?
CC is to Craig Francisco, so I'm not certain. But we could find out.
Couldn't really be doing anything without a variance, right? Potentially. Puts a new impact.
Right, so these are ones, the shoreline permit applications are ones that back into our wetlands ordinance. I don't know whether there's what's planned.
Do we need to get more information?
I thought they usually gave you something on there. You have to drill down on the file, I guess. Or
Right, we do have a file number, DES file number. And this is one of looks like one of two. No, these are the same. Application requests a permit for impacts to jurisdictional shoreline on the subject property. Detailed technical review of the application package will be completed within 30 days of receipt. Applicant's agent is Bedford Design.
so I just email Craig and ask him what's planned and how that
Addressing-
complies with the zoning ordinance. Or if they're seeking a variance.
Yeah, so I'll get an email to Craig on that.
Is stuff always this big when it's sent to us and we have to send back and ask questions?
Yeah, we never get out. We don't talk to people on DES correspondence. So it's just it's an FYI. If we're interested, we can pursue it. If we're not, we don't.
So it kind of depends on what kind of application it is, though, right? So the expedited, they usually come here looking for a signature from us. So that's still the process. And then
As far as I know.
a regular non-expedited permit can completely bypass us. And then the shoreline applications bypass us. Forestry notifications bypass us, but the zoning permits forestry and agricultural activity, so we really wouldn't have much to say anyhow on those.
Except we get copies of these.
Yeah, sometimes, like, remember we've seen the maps a few different times? There's no map for
Right,
that one, right? So
right.
no,
Right. No
yeah.
additional aid. Now, the next correspondence is a September 28th letter to Joseph and Lori Maribito out of Danvers, Mass. This is tax map 101, lot number 4, East Shore Drive. So it's another example of the type of communications we get from the Department of Environmental Services. This is from the Land Resources Management Program, complaint of possible violations on your property. Alleging you have begun using mechanized equipment within the protected shoreland of Lake Horace without permit or authorization from NHDES. So this would be great. If we knew about something going on, we could pass our information along to the state.
Technically, do we, even if they have a violation, do we have anything to do with it?
Quite possibly, because we do have a non-disturb
Ah, okay,
buffer on our jurisdictional wetlands.
okay.
So to disturb, in accordance with our zoning, you would have to get a variance. And department says we find no record of a permit being issued, citing the RSA 482-A, and regarding wetlands permitting, and 483-B regarding shoreline permitting, and stipulating a requirement for a response within 20 days. So, does anybody have any idea what's going on East Shore Drive? Because I have no idea.
I was gonna ask.
Yeah. So this is one, we can get very curious and we can go out and look.
We can do that?
Sure. Do we have the energy and manpower?
Sure.
We're all volunteers, so it's up to the individual. We will be hearing or receiving additional correspondence as it develops. Usually only though after at certain steps within the land resources management programs process. So the person sending information into the state isn't required to let us know. But once the information is received at the state, then their correspondence saying either they've received the requested information and they'll be evaluating it, or whatever their disposition is in response will be CC'd on.
Andy, a couple questions.
Yeah.
Would it be possible for the town employees, perhaps secretary and whatnot, to look that file number up and include any information with a letter? If we asked them?
I think we'd probably go through land resource management / code enforcement. And if, we could certainly make that request, and that would be the starting point.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
you'd have more information. And then, as far as doing an inspection of it or a walk or whatever, it would need to be a group, I would believe, and that none of us would have the authority to go.
Individually, we don't carry any
That's
authority.
what I'm questioning, yeah.
Yeah, and nor is it, we're not, in this sense, we're not a,
Go for it.
what's the right word? We're not an enforcement body, we're an information body.
Yeah.
So we don't,
Advisory committee.
right,
Yeah.
so,
The only reason I said it is if a single person went out, go do anything you want, but don't do it as an authority. You're a
Right.
concerned citizen, do anything you feel like,
yep,
legally. But a onesie-twosie is not representing the town.
good point. And the sort of information I had in mind is like the drive-by, oh yeah, I was down that area, something's going on, or I know somebody's out.
Yep.
But no, we're not investigators, we're not inspectors. We carry no badges, we
Correct.
we
But if
enter
somebody
at the-
violates something, do we do anything?
Observe it and report it to DES.
And DES handles all of that?
Yes, on my
And
end.
this is,
Oh, okay,
Well, that's what we do.
Yep.
okay.
So that, I mean, we could send that to Chip and ask him to go look to see if the town zoning was
Mhm.
violated as well.
Right.
To do that, and then he should go take care of it.
Yeah, and it may be a triple whammy where somebody's building something without,
I'm just wondering.
informing the,
If that letter came, I don't know when it came, but if there was time enough, that a little bit more information could be attached to it.
now you're talking a better, steps in the process before it comes to us so that we're a little bit more informed.
But would it hurt to ask Chip to look into it?
No. Those are good points, Bill. Appreciate them. All right. Gets a little confusing because our box will end up catching both the CC to the Conservation Commission as well as the Board of Selectmen. So I do not know whether a CC to the Board of Selectmen is reviewed by the Board of Selectmen or it's just put in our hands.
Can't help you there.
Whoa. And then, I'm sorry, as I'm looking more closely, and I don't even know whether this shows up on the agenda. Look at this, on both of those two items, you have the same file number, the same lot number, but two different
Now, I was wondering if
names or different couples.
is one the property owner and one's the person living there, because they have the foxes, or the foxes living in Canada, or what is it? One was living in Massachusetts.
Right,
That would
the
be
Marabitos and Danvers and Foxes in Canterbury.
Or is it something where they
I could look at the
together?
deeds. I mean, it could be a family situation with multiple owners or something, yeah.
So that's one and the same. But I will, at this point, I'll ask our code enforcement and land use coordinator to have a look into whether something's going on that the town should know about too. But with that, we've hit the Department of Environmental Services items, and we will continue on to other items, asking our good friends from Sinuosity to regale us with what you found and
Yeah,
what you'd like to suggest to us.
absolutely.
So come on up front.
Yeah, I have some handouts as well, and I don't know if we'll need to projector or not. I kind of know what everyone wants to see.
It'd be good to get, if we can do it on a projector so we can move the camera over and whoever's on watching.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then the things I did print out, I figured sort of numbers for people to look at a little bit more closely. So this is a copy of the full thing. And then this is the photo inventory, so I did just do 2 copies of those. And then what I did is I did 3 of these that have the table of contents, and then a couple areas that really made a lot of sense to recommend trails for. And so I printed those maps in particular as sort of a pull-out with the trail descriptions. And then timeline phasing stuff. So I've got 3 of these, and then we can also project. You're welcome. And then, yeah. then I've got the opinion of public probable cost. Print that as well.
So after you're set up, just the both of you just give a quick introduction and walk through of how things have gone, what you've done for us, and where we're going.
Sounds good. Yeah, and actually, I guess we don't know everybody here, but in terms of, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, Brooke again.
All right, so Brooke, you've met folks on this side of the table. We've got Bill, Steve, Andy, and then our newer members, Lori and Michael. And we have one member who is not present tonight.
So I'm just gonna, so basically because the document is a full, 65 pages or so, what I can do is I can just sort of summarize in general sort of what I found through the whole thing. What I would say is, all in all, from the properties that I looked at, right, so 7 properties part of the plan, there's not a lot of trail recreational use in general. There's not a whole lot of opportunity out there. A lot of places that seem to have opportunity, the opportunity was not maintained and not very well used. Meaning that it was hard to find the trails, right? So places that there might be trails, it was hard to find the trails for various reasons. With some exceptions, Fair and Pond, obviously. And so what I would say all in all is that there are opportunities, that there's a need, basically there's a need. And so from there, right, so in terms of the assessment part ended up being a lot shorter and a lot smaller than I anticipated, because a lot of the time there just weren't as many trails as I sort of expected to find. And then, is it coming? I definitely found a bunch of, there's a lot of water, as I'm sure you all know. There's a lot of water, and those aren't great places for trails. There are some small parcels that don't make great places for trails because you only fit so much trail, right? Because in terms of trails, there's certain things that you look for in terms of efficiency, right? You don't want it to be someplace wet, someplace too flat, because then it has no place for drainage. And you don't want something too steep if you don't have the ability to sort of work with the terrain. And you want it to be close enough to a place where people are, right? Because as you know, you're a rural community, and so that whole idea of actually being close enough to where people are for various reasons, as well as viable parking and all of these other things. And so, so basically, what came out of that was identifying 2 parcels of land that seemed to have enough opportunity to really sort of grow a network on. And so those were the ones that I focused most of the conceptual design on, as well as assessing the current opportunities that are there and seeing if there was space to sort of add on. And a lot of places there wasn't. And so so that's sort of the overview. What we can do, would you like me to go through each property
If you
and
could,
tell you a little bit about what I found on each
if
one?
you could do it, a 2-minute overview,
Yeah.
that'd be valuable to
Yeah,
us.
absolutely. So I did them alphabetically so as to not play favorites. Unfortunately, it starts with a property that, okay, 2 minutes. So what I found was there is mostly
This is
only motorized.
Bartlett
Yes,
Brook Town
sorry,
Forest.
Bartlett Brook. Mostly all only motorized encroachment, and mostly all on logging roads. And so steep in places, wet in places, not easy to access through the steep and wet in a way that you'd get enough trails out of it to make a whole lot of sense. And these are all just my recommendations from poking around, etc. And
the focus at all.
oh, I think that guy right there. Okay, so, and the pink are hydric soils, which are, basically really poorly draining soils and indicators of wetlands. So Chevy, what I found is that there were a lot of drainages were sort of, I like to think of it as sort of like settling down after logging. And so it's sort of hard to see where they're going to end up being. What's interesting is these drainages didn't show up on the maps. It was more sort of from poking around there. And so I think that, so in the plan, I recommended coming back in 10 years and sort of looking at this and saying, what opportunities could exist. One of the tricky things is that you can see, so the red are topo lines. It's not that easy to see from here. You can see that they're really close together, sort of near the opening or near the entrance with the parking. And so it's really tricky to get up that slope without going onto the neighbor's property. And so if something were to be done on this property in the future, it would be, there's a conservation easement on the property next to it. And so I don't know what openness they would have, but if there was interest, that would really be the way to do it, just because of the steepness. And like I said, and then the northern part, it's sort of like you could potentially get a nice loop. You can see with the terrain if you were to use this property over here and then come back around, but it's really too steep to get up in there very easily.
There's a class 6 on the east side of that.
East. Down at the bottom of the
Yeah, what's that
slope.
called? New Road or by that swamp right there?
Yeah,
Yeah, just off the property, but that's one possibility of doing it differently.
yeah, and so there's so these are all, this is all really wet. It was wet and mucky.
Yeah,
It was really super wet and mucky in here. And so trying to figure out how to, this is steep in here.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of drainages over here too. Yeah. So maybe, but it definitely doesn't say this is the most efficient, effective place for trails.
Yeah.
Meaning people can certainly use it to hunt and that kind of stuff. But maybe like I said, a lot of that wet area that's kind of mucky in the entrance, like once that sort of firms up a little bit, post logging, it usually takes like 2 or 3 years depending. Then we can sort of see how that settles out. And so you can see those are the conservation property, the lands in conservation next to it. Okay, so Eastman. I'm going to show you this map. So what's existing right now is this right here, and then this is existing. This is actually, at this point, it's used, it looks like mostly by ATVs. And then and then this is the railroad grade, but it gets, it's flooded in here. And so, so this would be using a little bit of the railroad grade. So basically, the reason why I thought that Eastman would be a great place for trails, right, is that the high school's there. The only people who I saw out there were a couple people walking dogs a couple times, and then the high school running team. So they run cross country there, they train, and it would be awesome to have them have access. They were super excited when I ran into them about the idea of having access for running, and then that idea of also all the educational aspects of actually doing things in the woods, right? And so thinking about classes even being able to access the pond there and that kind of stuff. And so that's that thinking that that having, so the high school's over here, so there would need to be a spur trail over here. They have a ropes course over here right now. So the idea is that there would be sort of that main trail, that green trail, that is mostly in existence right now. That's an old logging road, or it is an old logging road that will need to be used again for logging. So, so one of the alterations that we made was, instead of bridging, recommending culverts for some of the wet areas that could use a little bit higher grade and better drainage on sort of that existing area. And so sort of like so the other trails are sort of ways to get additions off of that, where you're in the woods on something more of a footpath. whether you are walking, running, biking, snowshoeing. And this terrain over here is kind of rugged, but it'll be, I think that the opportunity of having this feel kind of cool where you're coming off of this, where this is a road, right? And then this is like a little bit more rugged, and then climbing up here, and it feels really remote when you're up there. I mean, you do end up on the railroad grade right there for a little bit, so I was sort of thinking about getting that kind of feeling from taking that long haul up to Rattlesnake. One of the things about Rattlesnake is right now there's definitely motorized encroachment going on, sort of on that parcel, and it's not intense right now. It doesn't mean that it couldn't be if people go out in the wrong conditions, meaning super wet, and so the tricky thing is that there's at least 3 or 4 access points that I saw.
Off to the north.
Yeah, so there, and then there, and then somewhere, it was either in there or in there. And so coming from off the property. And, something sort of with all of these properties, that whole idea of, my suggestion is, because you're not going to be able to go out there and, like the conversation that you're saying, you're not policing, but putting up signs, reminding people, any places that, I definitely suggest if you are, if you're having a cut done, making sure that something is put, that sort of doesn't make it easy to drive right onto logging roads if you're not inviting motorized traffic. Because Bartlett, that's all of what's going on right there, because there's a motorized route right next to it, and then the logging road that's basically just inviting folks. And so, yeah.
Were these trails set up for that?
No, so a couple of things. In New Hampshire, it's not legal to operate a ATV or a dirt bike without landowner permission, so they automatically get a ticket.
Okay.
And then the easement, unfortunately, we didn't really realize the ramifications of this, but in the easement, there's no motorized recreation. So every time PLC finds out that someone's been out there doing that, then we're supposed to go somehow try to enforce it, which is next to impossible. So, signs sound good and all, but my perspective is I hate the woods full of signs. And in New Hampshire, it's a given. Anywhere you go, you have to get permission.
Okay.
And so people know that and don't care. It takes, Delane Brown, our conservation officer in the area, to hand them a ticket, basically. I think it's pretty well known by most people what they're doing. They're just blowing it off. One other thought, you got the trail going up and down the, I think Guilford, B&M, or whoever they currently are, still owns that. The railroad tracks.
Oh, yeah, yep.
So I'm not sure that we can really do that without getting permission.
Do we need permission for that?
Yeah, so we, and the other thing, remember we were talking about, I came across that there's a big skidder tire or something. It's actually right on the north side of the property.
So I poked around up here 3 times and
Yeah.
spent a lot of time up here trying to figure out what made the most sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see that tire?
Oh, yeah,
in the
yeah,
There's a
yeah.
little old road there too.
Yeah, so there is. So there's a logging road in here. It doesn't connect up. It doesn't connect over here, and it brings you out on the other side of this wetland. So, but the thing is that you still end up on the railroad grade.
Yeah, you do.
So if you want connectivity to Rattlesnake, you end up being on the railroad grade, and this is way wetter in here.
You think so?
Like-
Then down there, is
it's
it?
super wet in here and really poorly draining, and you need a bridge.
Right.
And basically, you need a bridge that there's this is all, doesn't look like it on here, but this is actually, there's a wetland over here too. And so it would be really hard to know what the height and width of that bridge needed to be, because it's basically a drainage from one beaver impoundment into another beaver impoundment.
I wonder if it flooded up more since I went in there last summer, because it was fairly dry and rocky in a hemlock stand area.
So I would say that it's easy-ish to cross on foot
Yeah.
with low water. What I wouldn't say is I wouldn't invite people this is where the trail should go, without putting in a bridge,
Boardwalk or
taking
something.
into account all that other stuff. And you could put in a boardwalk, because then you're going to be in the flow, and so you need to do a bridge, and then you need to do abutments out of the flood area, and it starts to get it starts to become a
You have to
thing.
get permission because it's not our land to cross.
No, the wet area is on our property. That's
Going
trail
across the
notification.
train thing, we still need.
Yeah, I'm just saying, yeah, you just go directly across.
So,
it.
so it's one of these things that if there was an issue with connecting here, you could definitely connect there.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that this part is actually like so pretty going up near that wetland.
Hmm.
That in some ways, so there's so the current ATV trail goes over here, and I kind of went back and forth as to recommending whether to keep it open or not. And the issue with keeping it open is that you're just inviting people.
Yeah.
And so that was one of my thoughts, where this is the main ATV route, where this would be a new trail. And so if you were to close this, you're not inviting people with a trail that.
So that's
So-
not existing on there, that blue one? I thought that was the existing.
So this is,
Yeah.
there's also a spur that
Yeah.
goes over here, and that's how people are accessing it. This right here
Yeah.
is not existing.
Okay.
So this is that place that, that if you try to go to Rattlesnake, you're on the railroad grade, and then you get to the wetland, and you're like, where was it? And so, yeah, so there isn't, from this side, there isn't a trail that goes up here right now. The trail actually goes over here,
Yeah.
which is a road.
Is there a way to cross that railroad right away without getting in the wet currently?
We remember that hike we took. We went to that north route there too.
Yeah, that
We
was
were-
in,
it was
in-
winter.
That was a nice frozen ground January where the wetlands
Yeah.
were all frozen.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there a
It
place
was
that,
it was pretty.
yeah,
There's some wet feet action around
Okay,
there for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so
Is there, how would you get across? How would you,
so in terms of if you wanted to avoid the railroad grade, I mean, so you can either
Sure,
go on the
yes.
railroad grade and
If
save
we were to-
yourself some trail
if we were to, make
to
a,
just cross as
right,
opposed to.
is there
Yeah.
is there a reasonable place to do that or not?
I think, I didn't look, so the tricky thing, because it's steep in here,
Right,
and so, I mean, you could potentially come down here and just shoot across. I mean, the thing about it is that if you were to get, right now people use it,
Mhm.
and so, if you need to get official permission, and that would be the sticking point to have that connectivity. I mean,
Because Goffstown had to get official permission for the trails to go through.
yeah. The thing about this, though, is that I'm not changing anything.
right,
You know what I mean? It's literally, you're just inviting
But
people to
she's-
walk
Right, but you still have to get permission
if you're gonna
cross
put it on a map.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that Rattlesnake is worth it, and I think that either way, you could put in more trail. It will be more expensive, because it's sitting right there, and it's a beautiful place to walk, and it's hard to convince people not to walk on it. But if it makes it so the project doesn't work,
So the most
Yeah.
natural way to get from one side to the other does include a significant chunk along the old railroad bed.
well, part of it too is that if you come in on the south side, right, because you have that wetland. That wetland is this pinch point. And if you come in on the south side, then the railroad grade is built up, right? So the wet's on the side, because really that whole thing is naturally a drainage, right? It's flat, it's low, and it's wet. And so they built up the beautiful railroad grade. So
Right.
if we don't go on that, then we're gonna have to raise the tread of the trail, to a certain degree, to get across anywhere there. And we only have so much space. So, maybe the north is a good way to go, but then we're also going to have to build extra trail if we're not using the railroad grade, because it's there, and really makes the most sense, unless it's a no-go.
So the State Bureau of Trails must have contact with the railroad, with all the stuff they've done. You would think. If you can get in touch with.
Yeah.
Now, see, the challenge is going to be, is there somebody who frankly gives a hoot about it, who would actually answer the phone or pick up an email and actually say, oh, yeah, you're in the, on the Weare NH town line, and, where,
I have quite a lot of information on that.
yeah.
The potential for north-south snowmobile trail is very good on that railhead right now. And I can certainly share contacts.
Is the bottom line that the snowmobile club has found somebody
Oh, yeah.
in a position of authority to discourse about that? Good. That information would be helpful.
Because that's crucial. You can't go forward without clearance.
Let's just look into it anyhow, because I mean, right now, all we're asking really is to just put it on a map. We're not making any modifications.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, none at all, except, you know, and some new trail off of it.
But I think pursuing it is a good idea.
But that's on our
Talk
property.
to
Yeah,
somebody.
totally.
And I agree that the one time I was over there, when you come down the steep into the kind of narrow wetland area and then head out beyond that into the rattlesnake, it gives you that feeling of being out there in a place not commonly trod.
Yeah.
And there isn't a whole lot of that in this part of the state.
Yeah. The only other thing that's a little tricky is that the prettiest viewpoint is on the neighboring land. But there is a viewpoint on that property. So, yeah, just sort of something to consider when making maps, not putting the viewpoint that is most
Land on
obvious.
there. Yes. That would
Actually,
not go over well.
yeah.
So there's an easement on. Is that the piece right next to it? That weird little easement that's over there.
I think it might have abut the open space part of that.
No, Meadowson Timberlands. There.
They're
To the north.
That's
To
in
the north,
Hopkinton.
yeah.
No, but there's an easement to the southeast.
Yeah,
Oh, so one of the encroachments is from north,
right.
right?
That's
to
coming right
Summit.
from that's coming
Yeah.
right off Meadowson Timberlands. They've been
Yeah.
doing that forever. I mean, people have been coming across by one of the walls.
Yes, exactly.
And that was well
Looks like
documented.
hunting
Well documented
and
before we owned it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But anything showing access from the southeast? I mean, it is the steep side of
From
Rattlesnake,
the-
so I
um,
wouldn't expect a whole lot.
yeah, no, it's really steep.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely really steep. I mean, that's how you get the view.
right.
You know, it basically drops off and you get this very pretty view. Yeah. So that's from the south flank.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was more than 2 minutes on that property.
Oh, no, that one deserved more than 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay. So Felch Farm, basically what I found were some logging roads that some people were using a little bit sometimes, and then a whole lot of very pretty wet, a whole lot of wet. And basically there is enough wetland that they're just, unless you really want to invest in boardwalks and permitting, and if wetlands were more rare in this area and you didn't already have opportunities to enjoy them in so many other places, then I would say, okay, well maybe this is a great educational opportunity. But I think that it's maybe a good place to sort of let be. In terms of, I'm thinking that, you know, people probably come there and whatnot also, and I'm sure thinking about just that being good for dispersed rec. It does have historic sites, and so it would be nice to sort of highlight those somehow. However, I just don't think that there's there's enough opportunity to create enough of a draw to get people to go there. Unless they're going to take a side detour from going to the transfer station. But usually that's a busy day thing.
Never quite heard it put that way before.
Don't we have a snowmobile trail going through there though? Because
So it
how can we
goes.
get asked to open the gate though?
It's not,
It's on the.
it's probably a private.
Trail coming through there.
There's a trail on the eastern side that's right on the boundary that that is not on the property.
Yeah, because every year we get asked to open that gate by someone.
So
They call me
this,
Probably a private.
so this right here, this is a motorized route
Yeah,
that is like really, really, really well defined.
right.
I believe it's even named on a map that I saw.
That's a
somewhere.
class 6, I think. That's
Okay.
you see that road goes
Yeah, I
over
can't
by
remember. It's
Cross. Well, it might be Peasley now.
Yeah.
No, it is, yeah, it is Peasley,
Yeah.
yeah, I was about to say, it's in here. Yeah, so it is Peasley, so that's basically that, and so I think that also not inviting people off of people using motorized things into the really wet area, because even the current sort of logging roads and whatnot are really wet, and there's a lot of opportunity for damage that would be done on the current routes. You know, definitely places that are not crossable without, you know, being in the mud or in the water ankle or knee deep. So,
Pictures are pretty impressive.
there was I found some beautiful, beautiful places knocking around in the woods there. So Farron Pond,
Okay, that's the one.
it didn't seem like, because of the terrain and whatnot, that there was a whole lot of terrain and size of the property, there's a whole lot of opportunity to expand recreational use there. However, it was one of the places that did need a little bit of work.
Yeah, I was there a couple, 2 weekends ago, and if you're going counterclockwise around the pond,
Yeah.
once you get to the end of it, finding the trail is difficult. There's a lot of fallen trees on and it was my first time going around. And
Yeah, so the
as I got
tricky
to
thing
the end,
is that that's not town forest land anymore
Okay.
on the end. And so the work that's needed is not on the town forest. And I would say that it's, you know, it gets pretty rocky. People usually go out to the end, and it seems like then they turn around rather than going on this side. It
Yeah,
gets
I saw
really
people
rocky
taking
in there, and then
like a
sort of-
logging road too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it still has like this nice little, you know, there's like this nice little nature trail that has some points of interest, but it also has a couple of steep areas, and so it seems like. And so I know that there was also logging that was going to be happening there.
It's all done.
Okay, it's all done. So, you know, so some of the drainage issues, places that needed some drainage put in, that, I mean, I don't know if that was, I don't know what things look like now.
So the road was regraded,
Yeah,
and
that's
some
what
drainage has been
yeah.
put in on that.
Okay, good, yeah.
Yeah.
That's that white icon. And, yeah, and sort of basically the whole thing is sort of needing some grading, so,
Yeah, so-
yeah, that's what I was figuring, that would
Yeah.
hopefully get done as part of that. And aside from that, a lot of the areas that don't have trails in them are really wet. And so that's, so it's either wet or steep over on the northeast side.
You keep saying that word wet. The operative word here is wet. Do we have any dry land?
Been a wet fall too.
Yeah, the mushrooms are out.
Mhm.
Okay, so Poor Farm. The existing loop really needed rehab and bridges being replaced. It was essentially half of it was I wasn't so sure I was on it, and I looped around a lot trying to find it, and I had every single tool that I had access to, and I definitely, you know, I did, yeah. And so basically it needs maintenance, and there was poison ivy like climbing up all over the place, which is uninviting. And so I think that I know the Boy Scouts have traditionally maintained this, and I think if they want to keep on maintaining it, that's great. If they don't want to continue to maintain it, which they aren't doing right now, I don't know if I would suggest keeping this as a trail in terms of the need for bridging. And, you know, there's a cemetery up here that this section, I mean, this is all road right here. And so, you know, so this would stay open either way. And so you'd still have access to the historic point there, as well as the, you know, that other historic point there. However, if you decide that it makes sense, or the Boy Scouts say, okay, we really want to, you know, whip this into shape, and replace the bridging and all of that, a nice addition could be, there's a wetland right over here, and I think there used to maybe be a trail, but once again, it wasn't really there anymore, but having a trail that is at a sustainable grade that goes down to like a wetland viewing point would be, it's on the next map, I think. That actually would provide a loop, could be a nice way to highlight a nice wetland view, sort of, give a little bit more opportunity. And that piece of property on the east side is actually pretty nice in terms of trail building. It's gently sloping to a little bit more than gently sloping, but it could give you a nice view of the wetland without actually inviting people to go to the shoreline, which is really what you look for, so that way you can have a visage from a little higher. And so that's down closer, but so it's pretty substantial. Could be some nice bird viewing. Toby Hill is small.
Define small.
I will save some time and say the most you could get out of this was would be a mile of trail, and it's just not enough of a draw. Unless it was like right next to a school or right next to a playground, in which case a mile of trail is fine. So then that leads us to Wood Friendly Forest.
And that's Bolton Field, recreation fields.
And so currently there's a snowmobile trail that needs some drainage work.
So Granite State's over here, Bolton Field, and then there's
Yeah.
parking and access into this existing that goes way off to the north.
I've never met this, so I have to go look at that too.
Yeah, I know they're a little bit behind on their harvesting schedule there, and I know they were planning on doing that this year, right?
I think we're doing Felch next.
Oh, okay.
A really big harvest in Felch.
Yeah. There are some really awesome trees on this property. And there's some black gum up in the swamp and whatnot, and it's definitely a very cool, I think that there's a lot of, like, the forest is interesting in a lot of places, and the wetlands are, again, there's a couple of nice places that you can get close without actually being in it, and gently sloping terrain all in here that provides really nice opportunity for trails. And so one of the things about this property also is having the park there. One thought that I had was inviting kids to sort of grow their bike skills by having some skills opportunities right off of the ball field. Or rather, it's like, I have a photo. You can see how sort of gently sloping that would be. And once again, this is not actually on town forest land. So that's sort of a whole other discussion. However, it would just be a really great way to get kids engaged in recreation.
Whose land is it?
That's the Bolton Park.
That's Parks and
That's
Rec.
town.
Yeah, so it's town, it's just not town forest.
Now, when you say, are you talking like in Amherst? They have a small little. It's called Birch Park, and it's just a beginner. It's like a fun. They got a wood wall you can ride on, and humps and like little jumps for kids. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I've heard about that one. I
What's the
think that is
liability on that?
no more than any other playground.
Yeah.
Good news is we wouldn't have to worry about it anyhow. It's not something
Okay,
we're ever going
that's
to do as
not our
Conservation
problem.
Commission now.
But it would offer essentially a bridge in between use of conservation land and use of recreation land, if you will.
So we could share that with Parks and Rec and see if they run with it or not, but
Yeah.
it's something we wouldn't have to deal with.
Okay.
But those are the sort of connections that can be beneficial.
Especially for getting kids in sort of that whole idea of like that borderline of like playground to not playground, and then suddenly they want to ride their bike more and they're actually riding on a trail, and the trails are right there. And so that's sort of that idea. And so having some trails that are a little bit more bike oriented there for that reason also. you know, since I've started this project, I've been talking to all sorts of people about Weare. and you know, and met people all sorts of places that live in Weare that or have lived here, and you know, when somebody said, oh yeah, you know, I ride my bike, but I ride my bike all sorts of other places, you know, or I ride my bike on some logging roads. I really wish we had great trails. I'm actually moving because it's important for me to be closer, you know, so sort of that idea of like there's an, you know, you see bikes around sort of this whole area, and so thinking that you know, that could be something that the kids are into, and so giving them that opportunity. This could be a nice place for it. So, and then this would be sort of like a nice walking loop with a couple of places for benches, and like I said, there's some black gum trees back there in the swamp.
Swamp again.
We love our swamps.
Yeah,
Pretty.
they're beautiful.
It looks-
So,
sounds pretty.
So it sounds like potential, the two at the top of the heap for potential the trail building are Eastman and Wood.
yeah, I definitely would say that they are
Do we have
absolutely
money
the
for that?
best.
We do.
We have this beautiful thing called the Conservation Fund, which is a very, very powerful tool.
Okay.
Yep.
It's always nice if you don't have to go to the taxpayers to raise taxes to do these things.
Correct. Which is why, well, I won't even go there. But I agree, it is. And it's a pretty significant responsibility on us to manage it to the benefit of divergent interests or multiple different interests.
And I like that this one ties in to Golden Field.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's what, you know, my thoughts also is just really having there be access, right? Because having a parking lot is key, but you actually have a fair amount of parking, or not a fair amount of parking, but you have parking at most of your properties that are okay. But sort of that whole aspect of everyone's so spread out here, you know? So like, where are people? You know, it's like they go to the school, you know?
Right.
They go to the school, everybody goes to the school. You know,
But,
and then-
you know,
yeah,
that's a long-standing part of Ware's history, though. It's
yeah,
We like our
decentralized.
space,
You know,
yeah. Yeah,
villages,
yeah,
multiple villages
yeah,
based on the water courses.
totally, yeah.
And a little bit of farmland here and there, but the real power of the town for development purposes or for growing a town was the water power on the different water courses.
Yeah.
So
That
we're
makes
kind
a
of
lot of sense. Yeah,
kind of
that's
and
interesting.
in some ways evolving back towards that in a way that you harness it not for powering industry, so to speak, but for powering, you know, recreation and an ethos that really enjoys the outdoors in different ways.
That's really interesting. So,
Can horses be on these trails all the time?
Depends on how they're
Once
constructed.
we do trails, are they open to anybody to do anything, hiking, riding bicycles, riding horses? I mean, is there a restriction?
Uncharted territory.
Okay, because
Some of the trails are currently used. There's some of the, I'm not even sure whether we should call them trails. Some of the Class 6 roads, some of the travel ways are used by horses currently.
I've been calling them recreational routes.
Yeah, thank you. That's, see, you knew I was looking for something.
Yeah,
Because,
totally.
yes.
The
Yeah.
idea of like, I don't know, that one's a road and that one I can't even find.
because that
Right.
becomes the stickler when
Yeah.
you're looking at developing something. If you're only aiming it for one group.
Different types of trail construction lead to being suited better for different user groups, and so typically hiking and biking trails can share similar construction methods, and motorized and horse kind of require a next level up of construction. And so that's how I see things, as kind of, you know, bike, hike is relatively low weight, low impact. Horse, motorized is more weight, more impact. And snowmobile is kind of, you know, needs a little more wide or more gradual trail. So you can kind of lump them into those categories. And And so depending on the terrain and the desired user groups, you can kind of base things around those.
I would think horses would go with hiking and biking.
So horses, this is an interesting stat because people go back and forth on this. Their compaction is 18 pounds per inch
Correct.
compared to humans, which is 3. And bikes are the same, if not less. And
So when you have
And they're not
anything
walking
soft
the
and
horse,
wet,
they're galloping,
and
and that's a whole
then they
different
so they
thing with the
compact,
shoes,
and then
yes.
in terms of the way their foot works, right, it also displaces. So they
Yes.
compact and displace, and so they
They
really
canter up
Yeah.
the gravel roads that are just done and rip them to shreds.
right. So if
Yes.
things are already compacted, such as like a historic road or something like that,
Yes.
it's fine as long as it's dry. And so, so there's a lot of responsibility in making sure that horses are on trails when they're dry only, or there's just a lot of maintenance work that needs to happen
Right.
to keep. Yeah, I mean basically just that compaction piece. It just keeps on compacting for a long time until it's you have to keep on
What's the need in
changing the
town?
drainage.
Pardon?
Hiking and biking, is that the greatest need in town?
Where?
Do we know?
We don't know.
We don't
No.
know. Perhaps before we get too deep in this, we should try and figure that out too. Trails are
Only
great,
at
I
the
like that.
shallowest level. We know folks are horseback riders, we know folks are hikers, we know folks are
Right.
trail riders, bicycle. Then we know there are lots of motorized users who like to use motors to get around.
Whatever
they're
we
all-
do, somebody's going to not be happy.
Well, I think we got going on this. A couple vocal people going to the Board of Selectmen, saying we have all this great land now,
Right.
but there are no hiking trails. And then they were kind of a no-show through this whole process. So I would say initially it was kind of hikers. And the other thing, the other problem I think that we run across is people aren't thinking things through about, oh, New Boston has these great trail systems. Well, they used all railroad beds and Class 6 roads. So
Right.
yeah, of course they have great trails. If you have that, take advantage
We're
of that.
building on more and more on Class 6 roads, which becomes a problem.
There aren't that many interconnected Class 6 roads left, right? And we've got a lot of roads that just, became our Class 5s, that are used for housing. And then we've got woods roads, so we're looking at building from scratch or, trying to improve trails that are pretty faint in this case.
It's a tricky thing because it's that whole aspect of, well, you don't know how many people hike and bike if you're not seeing them doing it. And so I can tell you that, right, so it's that whole idea of, well, are they doing that someplace else?
Yeah.
And because there are opportunities around, there just are not a lot of opportunities in town. And people have to go pretty far in terms of hiking trails.
I just go stomping all over the woods I check with all my neighbors and put my hiking boots on and just stomp, stomp, stomp.
Not everybody feels so comfortable going off trail, which is why a lot of people like trails. Like, they like signs. It makes them feel comfortable. There's some places that we get hired to organize crazy networks that people don't go to because there's too many intersections. They get turned around and they don't feel comfortable.
It's amazing how
And
easy that is to do, even when you've been in a place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's like it's not an experience that is
and
familiar to me,
right,
but
well,
I hear
and
this
some
from
people,
It's like,
some
this is-
people,
yeah.
it's kind of a kick.
Yeah.
You get through it, you figure it out. Other people,
Yeah.
it's terrorizing. It's I'm never going in the woods again.
Right.
Because,
Totally.
and maybe that's a good thing because
Well, that may-
there's some people we don't want to.
Yeah. So I don't know. I like one of the things, right, is that aspect of sort of if there isn't an opportunity there, right? Because there aren't a lot of hiking and biking opportunities in the town. So whether people are into it or not, they might be into it if the opportunity was there.
But just down to the very fundamental, some people, they don't want to be brushing stuff out of their face all the time when they're walking. They don't want to get smacked, by the person in front of them, not, holding the branch until they get there. It's just,
And trail running through the woods
Yeah,
is a
that's what I
lot
was
harder
gonna
than
say.
trail running on a trail. Yeah. Because woods running, it would be called.
so I think Steve touched on something which is a big part of our challenge, and that is we're a conservation commission, we're not a recreation commission.
Correct.
So we are kind of back and forth on sort of no man's land, except that we've got the sort of, we've got the responsibility to manage the land, but we're not, so much recreation managers.
Correct.
But we feel there's a need, and it's an appropriate need to meet. And we might have some resources that can be, put towards it. So it's just I don't know that there's any easy answer to it, but the reality is, this pushes us sort of beyond our typical comfort zone as land managers or open space conservation land managers.
A lot of times what happens is once a need is identified and some motivation and movement happens to it, a trails committee or
Yeah.
separate committee is formed.
I would say we work with conservation commissions directly, pretty
Mhm.
frequently though.
We do, but I
Yeah.
think your point is right, that it's sort
We,
of
well,
auxiliary.
we
to
haven't been there.
primary.
It might be after
Yeah,
5 years of
totally.
being there, it's a totally natural place and comfortable.
Yeah.
Right.
But
we're
getting
just
there,
beginning
we
with
have
the
to move
baby
through some-
steps of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Move through some challenges.
right, yeah, and sort of that committee sort of driving it.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's either something you guys get accustomed to and it becomes part of under your umbrella, or if you're
Well, and the
Well,
other thing
Steve
that comes-
mentions the complaint. Well, you're acquiring land, but people aren't, comfortable using it. So there's a point of, observation for us to realize that if we don't provide opportunity for a large enough base of, town residents, then maybe we don't get the support going forward on
Right.
something. So it's they're multi-layered, opportunity, I guess, with its challenges along the way.
And it's going to be a learning curve because you hear from a handful about this or a handful about that, but there's not a throng
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is stepping up and coming forward and constantly begging, pleading, crying. So it's hard to judge.
I was curious about the cross-country running team. They were so excited about the idea of not having to run on the road to train.
Mhm.
So thinking about something that's like really a solid start that would serve very directly in an exponential way. That could be, and also that aspect of trying to pull people in who might not be interested necessarily in conservation, but they are interested in recreation.
Sure, you get
Yeah.
a cross-country member bringing friends on the trails on the weekends, and then their friends are bringing other friends. That's how it starts.
Well, and parents, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and and so what I think of is I think of the teacher who said, "Oh, get a hold of me," and they didn't because that's not really part of my job. But that aspect of of an adult in your community being super excited and saying, "Please get a hold of me. That would be awesome. We'd love to know more and be involved." And so thinking about, okay, so who's
Well-
going to do this? It's like, well,
There's
yeah. So
you've
Yeah.
backed into the question that's we haven't gone to yet, but is there a opportunity for a community forum in front of us somewhere in the next few months to actually advertise and say, folks, come out and, we've got all these questions. If you're interested in this use, that use, the other use, come join us and let's kick some ideas around, moderated as a town forum with your assistance, and I think you had written on that within the last
And you
year
can't
or
base it
so.
all
Is
on
that
the
something we want to
students
do?
either.
Is that something you've had experience doing?
yeah,
Where you're.
yeah.
We just, last winter we did one in Hanover,
Mhm.
similar process, kind of,
And-
town forest, and they wanted to identify who the potential users would be. And so we set up a forum like that and collected information on what type of activities they're looking for, if they already use the property. One idea I had was maybe the cross-country trail could be a multi-use thing, and you invite everyone for, within a range of what you're looking for. If you can have sections that are appropriate for bikes, hiking, maybe horses, maybe probably not motorized, but throw a broad net and see who uses or who is interested in one first section and kind of choose a direction from there. But I think the forum would be a good very first step. But I think my point with doing something on the ground is you're gonna get a lot more people to a trail than to a meeting.
Yes.
So you'll see that
Absolutely.
impact, and it's there longer, and so.
You know, I personally don't have any concerns with the plan at all. I think it's pretty close to perfect, and it neck things down. It's nothing like ridiculous that you know, it's not over trailed. I mean, we got off on this wicked bad tangent a couple of years ago with someone who wanted these concentric trails going all through here. It was, you know, for a natural resources guy, it's just not cool. But I mean, you already know that you've got the school there, and then you know you've got a lot of good parking opportunities on 2 to 3 sides of this thing. So, you know, the only thing I would say that, you know, I kind of disagree with in the whole plan is I do think, if nothing else, maybe just an outreach to PLC, because I think Farron is really popular, and if their side of it is not maintained, you know, they need to know that. That's just a super popular area, it seems like.
And I don't actually think that the far side of the pond is a great place for a trail, though the idea of walking a loop around the
Yeah.
pond is a pleasant thing, but it is wet and rocky, really, really, really rocky. We're talking like,
Yeah, I've been around the whole
yeah.
thing. I don't know, if you hike all over the Whitestone, it isn't rocky,
Well,
right?
yeah,
Or
true,
wet.
but for something that like seems, it's just, it seems like a nice, like really gentle family place. It's not like Rattlesnake Mountain where like, you know, where like the idea is that you feel kind of out there. And so when I think about character, right, I think like, oh, we're going up to the pond and like having a picnic or something, you know, because it's not very far out there and things like that. Yeah.
If we're a little more sturdy than that, if we're that fragile, I'm concerned.
I mean, I think I have to think about everybody in the community.
Right.
So when I design trails, I think about everybody. I often ask, is there a nursing home nearby? Are you going to want to accommodate the nursing home? You know, are there people who, you know, who's nearby and who can we serve in your community? And so I try really hard whenever I'm making these plans to not think about what I like. It's not about what I like at all. It's about, you know, what the, you know, who's there and what will they like, and who isn't at the table and why aren't they there, and sort of how can we get them involved? Sure, that makes sense.
So when
You've been
you're-
awful quiet, Bill. What do you, any thoughts to share as
Very mixed
somebody
feelings.
who's very much into a different
I think that
type of
They-
trail?
you have to start it.
Yeah.
And Eastman's probably, and down the wood thing, but, and I guess I would vote to get, or feel it would be right to get something started, but my vision would be a little different. The Farron thing, like Steve had said, I would definitely want to encompass, work with PLC and make that a trail. And it's like somebody skiing. It's a difficult trail. You make your own decision. But on the east one, I want to just look at maps and is there other conserved land in that area?
It's all in Hopkinton.
Okay.
It's all MTL. You know, we get back to the whole point, like where we're spending our money. Like we're not.
But before maybe phase 2, if this really got popular,
Can it bump into another town?
should it grow a little bit? And it doesn't necessarily have to be this group that's
Right.
makes that push.
Yeah.
Or maybe you make a trails committee out from this group, and they report to this group.
Yeah, I think our difficulty with the prior incarnation was we didn't have a plan.
Yes,
So it was a push without a plan,
and
and that gets frustrating.
NPL is very generous with their profit. And if it made a big difference, you know, before Rattlesnake Hill Trail got done, if using some of their properties just made it that much more significant. My vote would be to pursue getting
Connections.
either easements
Yeah.
or whatnot on their property, so they were permanent. And if people using them as much as they probably will, I think it would be money well spent to reach out to some neighbors on conserved land and if
Buy
it
it
made
from
if it
them?
made it no, just use it. Get an easement going,
There's already an easement on that, so you couldn't get an easement on the easement.
well, you can get permission.
Permission,
Yeah,
a trail
it's-
trail
Yeah,
agreement.
Trail-specific easement, like a right-of-way.
One that already is encumbered by a spinif easement?
I'm not
I
sure
don't think
about
there's
that.
any way you could.
Okay.
And
It's got a conservation
maybe
easement on
you
it.
can't answer it.
Right.
Can they
I
revoke
believe
those
a trail
easements?
easement in Vermont, my experience has been that a trail easement is a totally separate thing from a conservation easement.
So, like, the Wood Forest has a trail easement going through it that was in place before the land became conservation.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that I think you'd have a hard time going back. I mean, trails usually authorized
I
in
mean-
the easement, so I just don't think you
Right.
can get
It
an
would be
easement.
more of a permission thing
Yeah.
than like a property value deduction that you would get from a conservation easement process.
Is that
So-
something, if somebody sold the land, that the easement would die, or they're stuck with that easement?
Depends on if you have what kind of,
Right.
if you
I
easement
think,
with
I
like
think
capital
all
E or
the,
not.
all of the property is already under easement.
It is.
You know,
Right.
if it's a written
But it's
handshake,
not
then no,
public
it doesn't,
access
it doesn't,
conservation
Right.
easement.
It's
Doesn't
there forever.
perpetuate
Trail would
itself.
be a
Right,
public
and that,
access
you know, you gotta be very
corridor.
clear on that, because the other
Yeah,
thing we
they
don't
don't
wanna
allow
get
it.
into the
Right.
business of is now going to everybody in town who's got connecting properties. You don't want people to feel like they're going to be pressured for an easement. That's very important too, because people have lands and they have their conservation easements or conserve their land their way. And we certainly, well, to Bill's point, it would be nice to have some of these easements. We certainly don't want anybody to think, here comes the Conservation Committee and they want my land to do this. You know, that's not good either.
Yeah, I think you would want to approach individuals that you know
Our
already
warm and
that
fuzzy
would be
I would
identity.
think
Yeah.
that, you know, you certainly have got a very good working relationship with PLC and society has been great for any kind of use, all uses. The people want to rely on it, but I'm not saying look at doing it right now. I'm saying, you know, make a first, you know, if you're gonna do something, do it. And go in a phase one type thing. And then if it really does work, and it's being used right,
Creep forward a
folks
little
and you're
bit more.
looking for more, then
Mhm.
perhaps it'll grow into something more. But I'd hate to see us on a great big piece of property like Eastman not take some opportunities before any funds are spent on, you know, a new big piece of growth. If you could make it that much better by encompassing.
or at least plan for the future
Yeah.
phases, yes.
It's outside the scope of what we're even allowed to do, though, other than come up with an agreement. How are we gonna use Weare money in Hopkinton?
Well, maybe if it's being used that much, maybe somebody that would wanna go out for a grant, which is.
Yeah, or maybe go to
very
Hopkinton Henniker and ask them, but we couldn't
Yeah.
do it ourselves.
Well,
We wouldn't
your
spend any of our
trail
money on
committee certainly could do
it. Town one, yeah, I don't know.
Nice thing
Not
is that
with
if you
town
have some
money.
funds, right, then
Yeah.
you have funds to leverage.
Yeah.
So in terms of whether it's, you know, cost
Nothing
sharing
but
or
a-
whether
Is
it's,
this
you know,
taxpayer money?
providing matching funds.
Depends on you look at it.
Where do you
Yeah,
get this money
it's even
from?
different counties on that line. That line's the county line right there.
Because-
75% of the land use change tax when properties taken out of current use and put into typically subdivisions.
So it's basically generated out of the town, out of the taxpayers, one way or the other. You're, as a taxpayer.
It's out of
you're-
the real estate transaction.
Yes, so it's taxpayer money. You've got to be very careful with the cleanliness of that, because using something like that in another town could raise questions.
Oh, there'd be lots of questions before we'd even consider
Yes.
it.
Yes, okay.
So
I
that's,
think you're jumping years.
yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
But it's definitely to remind ourselves,
You know,
it is public trust.
Yes.
the trail that goes from Wapak down to Massachusetts. I wonder who actually the group is that did that trail.
I think so, yeah.
Goes from where?
We should.
It goes from like, it goes through like over by Packman, Adnock, and, the Fish and
Oh,
Wildlife.
the triple, like the so the MM and M trail.
We
they
have no
call it?
physical connection to it, just as an analog,
Yeah,
as
so
a.
Some
so
wonder
when I
who-
worked for
wonder who that-
AMC,
Yeah.
I swear it was AMC.
I think it was
did most
AMC that
of the
did that.
work,
It's a
yes.
pretty good trail,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I just wonder how they pulled down. I mean, that goes through a
Right,
lot of
because then you,
jurisdictions.
right, you're,
Well, I mean, but they do, like
Yeah.
I dealt with like the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah,
Right.
right, yeah.
Like that was like that's part of what I managed, and yeah. So you end up dealing with a lot.
Right, I mean, that was
Yeah.
all Park Service, though, right, the applicant?
So Park Service, however, well, yeah, it's the Park Service. However, it goes over all sorts of property.
right,
Yeah.
it's
So
on
yes, that
private property,
borders the
it's
Park
on.
Service.
Yeah,
But to get to it, every
Public
side trail, I mean,
yeah.
you get shotguns pulled on you sometimes. That's just for maintaining a side trail to the Appalachian Trail. So yeah, the thing is that as soon as you start to connect things, things get tricky, and trails are about connecting,
Yeah,
right?
right.
You can't have a trail that doesn't connect to the rest of the trail.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all part of.
Yeah, we have to be very, very careful.
Next steps.
Yeah. So, it's really up to all of you. So what I did put in here was a suggested timeline, based off of, sort of based off of thinking about how a bunch of different things. Part of it would be funding allocation, and sort of that whole idea of not spending all of your money at once, so that way you can use it for in terms of matching funds or whatnot, and how to and raising funding if that were to be of interest. The other thing is thinking about sort of what trails sort of complement and would get people more interested, as well as what would sort of be easy or low-hanging fruit. And so that's some of the ideas behind the suggested timeline. Something else to sort of consider is that with the design, the total length, actually I'm going to go back to the very beginning, but the total length of new trail would be, I don't know if I have this in there. So it would be new trail length of,
7.7.
this is just Eastman though. I'm just looking at the whole thing.
4.9.
That's just Eastman. I'm trying to find
How much money do we have?
Okay, so basically, if you built
Give
the
me a second on that.
8.3 miles of new trail and added them to your current 6 miles of trail, you'd end up with 15 miles of trail. And one of the things about sort of 15 miles of trail is it's not an insurmountable amount of trail to maintain for a town, right? Lots of towns maintain a lot more than that, but it's like, that's a big chunk. So in thinking about sort of what, not knowing who will be involved for the future, it sort of seemed like a good number that doesn't seem too aggressive. And
Till
getting
we
in
find
too
out
far
who wants
over.
to step up and maintain that trail, it's,
Well, I mean, it all comes hand in hand, right? Because as soon as trails are there, more people are interested in them, and so,
Really, if people don't want to get involved, then it isn't going to grow anyway.
okay.
Why
It's
would
not
you
worth
make
the time.
something that people aren't going to use and don't care about?
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it was a little disheartening to go to Poor Farm and see, okay, well, this is like one of the only mapped trails, right? And I
You
couldn't
did
find
too.
it.
Right.
However, I think part of it really got me thinking about, okay, so what are draws for people, and also where do more people have better access, which is what we talked about in terms of connectivity with the school, in terms of how to serve populations where they are, because a lot of people aren't gonna wanna get in their car and drive very far,
You
to
know,
recreate,
the whole
unless it's
thing,
on the way to somewhere.
our outlook will change when we log a piece of, when we go in forest timber. The landings may end up being a little bit nicer.
Mhm.
Perhaps some of the main toll roads will be repaired a little better, and make it more user friendly in certain areas.
Mhm.
But that, it will, until it starts to get some use, and you know that the town is behind that, and people want to get involved.
You don't
We
know.
really don't know.
Okay.
There's a ton of things that you can do with trails, but if there were two people interested and one kind of pooped out and no one else comes around, then
If there's a lot of, yeah, we want it, but no, we're not helping, that's a
all
whole
of a
different
sudden
thing.
you've got literally hundreds of people out there. The need will drive the development.
I got a quick comment. I'm really uncomfortable with the skills trail. It's blowing up the cost. It's not on conservation land. I think I guess that would be the one thing that, I'm not sure what we do with it, and I don't like how it just kind of blows up the cost. I mean, it's like $50,000.
180.
I think you're right. We're not in the market to become the recreation committee.
Not a bad idea or anything. I'm not sure that, or somehow that gets pulled out of the work plan. Because I don't think we want to use any town forest or conservation on that.
And I'm not a strong proponent of backing into the schools. I don't want to hear that I need to develop more things for the schools. We have a lot of things for the schools that we've done.
So you know what, honestly, this is really a discussion with all of you.
Yeah.
In terms of, because at this point, like, these are my recommendations, and then sort of what you do with them is entirely up to you. It's your land, it's your funding, it's your schools, you know?
And
And this
we
is
pay
really,
for
that's really, it's entirely up to you.
Right.
I think
As
pulling
to what makes
the
the
park
most.
out of the cost estimate does make sense. I think that's a change.
Yeah, I think just because it's not on conservation land or town
Right.
forest. Because I mean, the charge
Oh,
was
yeah,
essentially town forest.
Yeah, so the only reason why I added it in was because there was definitely a conversation about looking into adjacent properties and what would make sense. And so I just saw an opportunity there, and the only reason why I even went into putting a number on it was in case it made sense for you later on or for somebody else. Because without that number, if anybody wanted to do that in the future, they don't have a,
So maybe break it out of the
yeah, totally.
probable cost and just throw that somewhere else so you can just be handed off and say, hey, they had this idea, give it to Parks and Rec.
Right,
and,
totally.
you know.
I mean, that was
So it's just
basically my
rearrange it
idea
a
in
little
terms of,
bit,
I don't
yeah.
even know if you could use that, yeah.
Yeah.
But sort of that it would be a nice compliment
Yeah,
for whatever.
right,
Yeah.
right. So just
Yeah,
kind
totally.
of
I'm gonna make a note.
just replace
I
it.
got it now.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
What's that? That's high school?
Do you think we might want to sit and agitate over this for a meeting and then
Yeah,
discuss it at a next meeting? It's a lot to,
so I'm sure they would just do that if we talked to them. That's pretty minor.
I personally could not make a good decision on this.
On what?
I'd like to be able to percolate over this for a meeting before I make a recommendation or decision. I'd like to sit and look at it and study it some more.
Well, we're just trying to finalize the plan, essentially.
Okay.
I don't think we want to change much of anything, just if we have
Okay.
anything we want to change, we should probably mention it now. we're not talking about, you know, making a decision to fund something or not fund it. These are
Okay.
all recommendations, and then you can just
Okay,
work
all
with it.
right.
Definitely.
I didn't know if we
Totally
were
good
looking for, let's go
Yeah, we're just trying
start.
to wrap up the plan. This is
Okay.
kind of the end of this planning process.
You've done a great job, and it's so obvious you enjoy what you're doing, the way you can look at it and see the potential, and you'll say, this is a great place to just look and be. That's really wonderful to see.
Yeah, it's always an interesting thing because I always get in the middle of a plan and like, gosh, is it even gonna? I never know if it's really gonna come together, and it, you know, and it does. But it's sort of that whole idea. There's all these moving pieces, and how is it all going to fit together? And it is. It's an exciting thing when it actually does, and you actually have the vision of like, oh no, this. All that doesn't make any sense, and when you see all the things that don't make sense, and then you finally see the stuff that does really make sense, and it's, that part's really exciting.
Would it be possible to get a copy sent to the commission electronically?
Yeah, we've sent them around. I'm not sure about this version. Is that
Right.
one, that version we had? Yeah, we
Yeah.
already had that,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, yeah. So any changes will be sent back.
So we good with making that change, just somehow pulling that like
Yeah.
off to the side? How
Yeah.
Totally.
think
I'll
that's-
I'll
that's a
totally
wise
pull it out
decision.
and
Good
then like leave an
suggestion.
asterisk and note and
Yep.
all that kind of stuff.
That's definitely part of
Do you want me to pull it out on even a separate piece of paper or leave it in there and?
No, I mean, I would just chunk the cost off somewhere else that it can be shared with someone, that this is a recommendation, but not for, you know, it's not on conservation land. And then,
Like separate page,
yeah, and just,
Yeah.
whatever's done.
just word it a little, you know, in the plan, just, if you just, I'm not sure how clearly you got it worded, but it's, you know, adjacent, it's a good idea. It's
Should
right next,
somebody
just
wanna
like you
do
said,
this,
for
it
the
would
reasons you
work
already,
well
we
with the
talked about.
conservation.
And yeah.
On town rec land.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's that aspect too of the connectivity with the high school would actually have to be on high school property as well. And so there is, I did make a note in there that it's sort of a consideration that it's not, that in order to actually connect with the spur.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll
Yeah.
give them this, you know, I would assume, and just say, hey, you guys, you know, they have money. They can build that little portion themselves
Yeah.
if we choose to do that.
Cross country's running team might be interested in doing some digging.
They've done, I mean, so,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they've had the, there's also been some science classes that go out there, and so that helps
exactly. And that's
facilitate
where I was
that.
really,
Yeah.
it seems like they're trying to get into the woods. When I was there, like there were kids like running all through the woods on things that weren't even trails, and
Yeah.
like they, just trying to sort of make it all work.
Yeah.
They run everywhere.
Running through the woods not on a trail is definitely a
No,
special
it's not
skill.
good. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Well, when you plant a,
Yeah.
sapling like this, 2 inches in the bottom of your knee, then, you don't want to be doing that.
And that rotted log that was more
Right.
rotted than you
Yeah.
thought.
You're lucky if it's just you slipped on something and
Or the
had the
stones
wind
that are
knocked out of
going
you.
up out of nowhere.
Mariah, is this the July 20th, or were these all finalized July 20th?
Yeah.
Okay. And they were available on the Google Drive? That,
Google Drive, and I sent a WeTransfer as well, just because I wanted to make sure that. If
that doesn't mean
folks
anything
would-
to me. What
It's
is
just
it?
like, it's a way of sharing really large documents.
Mhm.
And basically you have like a week to download, because we also need to send you the shape files for the trails. And so we will probably send them that way. I mean, there aren't all
They're
that
small,
consistent.
they'll be
Okay.
fine in an
So-
email attachment.
Okay.
Bill, this was sent to Steve, Jeff, you, and me on July 20th. So,
I'm sure I still have it.
okay.
And we'll
How
update
do the
and
rest
send
of
it
us
again.
get a copy of this?
Well, it's
And I don't
called
know anything
forward
about
it.
Anything.
He's gonna forward it to us.
Yeah, you'll get a link to the Google Drive document, so you can open it just on any web browser through Google service. Yeah. it'll work.
There you go, you're getting the point, I can see this. It's like, really, you think so? You sure it works that way?
Is that ArcGIS, or what did you use for the?
I used Granite.
Oh, you just pull it right up on granite?
Yeah. Granite's great in terms
Yeah.
of they have the a new layer that is human impacts to wildlife
Hmm.
that is new in like the last like 4 or 5 months, I think. And it's like it's just a whole other fun layer to sort of see, good place. I mean, it's basically mostly all a lot of it is around wetlands. So it makes sense.
So you were able to drop the shape
Yeah.
files onto the.
Yeah.
That
On the
looks
viewer?
like, that's
Yeah.
LiDAR.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what, LiDAR, what's that, like half meter? I mean, it's incredible. That's the contour that it will show you.
Yeah.
All right, so I just forwarded Mariah's email from July, so you folks should be able to pick it out in your email and access it. Clicks. It's all clicks, right? You just click on stuff and stuff
Click on the
happens.
one that looks like it's something.
The thing that looks different. You just click all over the place, and when it does something, that's it.
Listen, I had to get Naomi to hook me up to the Wi-Fi tonight, so.
Well, that helps. That helps a lot. It really does. Yeah.
Do we need a motion or anything?
What I want to throw around, or I want to kick around just a little bit, is the concept of a community forum. Is it, there's a little bit of expense involved with it. There's a commitment of time for something that we haven't done, I guess, since we were in the promotional stage with the Eastman, which is have a meeting at a school, typically, could be town hall too, outside of our Wednesday night meetings. Advertise, invite public, provide some refreshments typically, and see what ideas come out of it, what commitment, what level of interest comes out of it. Brooke, you make the comment that, well, you can invite folks to a non-activity, talking about activities, or you can, morph something into an actual activity type event. You'll get different people, and maybe you'll get more people to one than you would the other. I feel like we last discussed this, and we were like, well, let's get a plan. Let's see the plan. We don't want to do that too early and have it throw us, in too many directions. Now we're kind of finalizing a plan. Do we want to try to present it and elicit some feedback or not?
Well, I'd like to point out something. We're going into budget season now, so you have a lot of things coming forward on the boards with the schools that are heavy ticket money items. And while we may have some money, people are looking at the cost of things. If we want something to go forward, it's easier to get it through in the talking stages after you get through a lot of your budgeting stuff. And you've got a lot of boards. There's huge ticket items on this year for both the schools and for the town. And while we may have some money and we want to see this through, we want to make sure that whatever we do, the feedback we get, we have the ability to showcase it and plan appropriately. And we're coming into a very difficult time. You're going to be running into a lot of meetings. People have a lot of requirements on their times.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
I'm just thinking if you leave it later, go into spring, get through January, through February, it might be better because we'll have time to study more. This bill will be able to point out the people to talk to on other towns.
One thing to it, though, on the Eastern property, is the high school portion of that a necessity?
The
Is it It's a
connectivity?
vital part of the new trail?
No,
It's
no, not
not.
at all. No,
So-
it's just that,
It's just to connect the high school.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
is
it doesn't
that,
have to.
is that?
If there's something there worthy of connecting to, then
That's
there-
just
there's-
the high school portion on their property?
there's impetus to do
Is
the
that
work.
whole-
I can. Are we trying to figure out how
Yeah,
long that's?
No, how
Not
much?
just the high school
Was the
part.
high school the $26,000 first one? Or is it that whole bunch?
Do you understand what I'm saying?
So
Mhm.
the high school connection.
I just think it's a discussion to have now
Right.
and formulate
My point,
where and when we might want to go.
if that is a vital piece of it, make that the high school aware of doing something out there.
So there isn't a cost on it because it's
Okay.
not on town land, and so I didn't do a cost.
So what's the top cost? Is that the green part of it? Okay.
Yeah, this is only for them.
Okay. Got it.
And then that bicycle thing, if there's a cost to it, we can just hand to Parks and Rec and say, is this anything you guys want to look at budgeting?
Yeah, it's like 50,000. Right.
And, you know, you kind of got to do it now.
That's the other side of that coin that Lori was talking about. Yet, pull back a little bit and say, this is not get everything done now. This
Yeah,
is
right.
start building the vision, start building the support, making
Yeah, the bike thing.
effort to make sure you're on the right track, and you know, have the discussions, have the information circulate, and as much as we can within our body, make plans to get out of the planning phase into the
Doing things.
the building phase, then that is what we want to position ourselves to do. A little bit of momentum while realizing that it's not now or never on just about any of what we're talking about.
Yeah. In terms of a forum, like what we do when we are facilitating public forums is definitely keep it pretty focused and trying to get the feedback that we're looking for. And so being really sort of clear about the questions, and I'm a big fan of sticky notes, that way people can think about it and then they put it up there, and it's not necessarily even a discussion, but you're still getting the feedback and you're actually getting the concrete feedback and you can assimilate it later.
Right, right.
And then you can see patterns with it. And it's really you're collecting data is basically what that means. And so thinking about what data we'd want to collect at this point, and things that I would be curious about is, what people are interested in. In terms of how they recreate other places. So what recreation they do, like not in Weare, and
Right.
because that whole idea of instead of driving over there, do it and stay in town. So, and so sometimes we use at the very beginning where it's like a broad, wide open, and then you vision from there. Whereas at this point we've kind of done that, but there's enough diversity that things could still shift around a little bit, or that whole idea of how the timeline or like the phasing goes. That might make a lot of sense to shift depending on what people's interests are.
But we're definitely within a few weeks, a month, couple months of having documents to put on our webpage and say this is our vision. It's available to the public. Digest it. Provide feedback. Show you're interested, if you are. But once we have a plan like we have on our forestry plans, we make them available. This, I think, is a little bit more approachable to a wider populace than our forest harvest plans and maintenance plans.
The hardest
so.
problem is getting it to people.
$50,000 the
You
skills
can't
trail?
make the assumption
That's
that
actually
when
on
we
rec land.
conservation
Mhm.
meeting minutes, they don't necessarily go on the
The
town
beginner bike
website.
trail.
You can't assume that it's the schools. I mean,
Yeah.
it's very hard to figure how you're going to cover that, because there are so many variables here to try and make sure you get the widest net. That is going to be a very interesting trick. I don't know whether we pay to send out a mailer to let people know. That goes to every household. It will cost you a couple $1,000s, but on the other hand, you're sure everybody will get it.
Oh, Open Space Committee did that.
You know, and
variations of that.
that way nobody can say they were left out, they're not on the internet, they don't attend this, they don't have time to do that. It's, because that is the big trigger.
Mhm.
Put it here.
That's a gate right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a gate.
And I think once we get all the documents
That's-
and then
and this is all
we
part of it.
think about
These
doing that and
pictures are-
sending that
That's,
letter out.
yeah, that's definitely, I mean,
We
that's,
could always
that's, I
let
mean,
it
it's right
shoot.
there, obviously, but that
Deliberative
is, yeah,
session
it's
shortly
the ball
after
goes,
that,
you know,
it's a
like
great
the-
time to start
the-
getting people together
Mhm.
shortly
Beginner bike
thereafter,
trail.
because now they're
This
thinking.
guy right
That's
there.
the guy up
It
there.
doesn't turn
Whereas
over,
now
it's
you've
yeah,
got
bad color.
Halloween, Thanksgiving,
And that
Christmas,
is
And
all on conservation. This is the boundary
budgets,
of
and they're all
conservation.
just like,
That is on
again, kids are in
conservation, okay.
sports right now, parents are busy,
And you didn't have any
there's all kinds of
plans
activities
anything
after
on-
school.
Even though it.
These are just,
photo.
those are just
Yeah.
the
I can
skills
honestly
things that
say
we're gonna,
finance committee
you know, that
is
we're gonna pull
kicking
off.
out and we are
Okay.
meeting.
The skills
and
thing.
So that,
Our
so that
meetings
was
are
Skills
starting to
Trail
boost
one
up.
One, okay, yep.
and Skills Trail 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I suggested that, but yeah, I think a mailer is a smart
I
thing
thought the
when we
bike trail
decide
was
to
part
do
of that.
this.
That's kind of, that bike trail
The
is
color
like
picture, it doesn't really cost a little bit
disproportionately
more,
expensive.
but it's
That one?
attention getting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
We
part
have
of
to
that
very
is that it's a,
thoughtfully
because it's a
figure out how
beginner
we're gonna
trail,
go.
it's, you know, it's 3 to 4 feet
Which is
long.
not a reflex sort of thing to do.
No, no,
Also,
it's
like,
gotta be a
multi-use.
very
In terms of it's, you know,
carefully
it's
done
not
thing.
hand-built, it's
They're not
Yeah.
running
constructed.
loose.
Yeah.
It looks like the trail on the high school property is 900 to 1,000 feet long, somewhere in that ballpark, so fifth of a mile, so wouldn't be very expensive. No matter how it's built, it's not gonna be a huge chunk.
I mean, it was,
We might want to throw that cost in there just so we have it.
Yeah.
Just so
I
you
mean,
pass it on.
I mean, I was also actually thinking that that could be a great place for volunteer engagement and to actually get people digging.
Right.
What's your hourly supervision fee for all that?
Right, and what happens when they go home after lunch and you're left to build the rest of it?
Yes.
What do they have?
We do
That's why
have
you
the
put a
Boy
cost
Scouts that are in
on it.
charge of an area that's going downhill, so.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on sort of how, yeah, sort of how it all fits together. Because thinking about, you know, starting from kind of ground zero in that, you know, what also needs to be built is stewardship. And so, you know, the question is how to build that. And when you get people actually, even if, you know, they're not, I mean, no, they're not going to be building the finished product, but you get them thinking that they have, that they're having input to creating a trail, and suddenly they have interest in that trail and the longevity of that trail and maintaining it.
That worked well in Goffstown for a while, and now they're having a hard time. So it's gotta be slow, we've gotta be careful how we do it, because volunteerism, you know, the snowmobile club has an eager group, but not all other groups may have that same kind of eagerness or the same kind of ability to harness manpower. And you gotta be careful with that.
For instance, trail running doesn't have a whole lot of organized clubs. However, bike trails, right, that trail runners use all the time, they organize, they build, they maintain, they, you know. And so, I mean, my thought is, that was the idea also with having some area that's more bike specific, is getting some of that energy here, because then they're gonna maintain the rest of your trails.
Well, do
You
we have a
know.
bike club that even does that?
Not here, but you have one, you know, 20 minutes away from you, 30 minutes away.
You don't
Right.
really-
And
you don't
people
really
drive
offer
more than
it.
half an hour to bike, so the
I'm
minute
sorry,
that
I
you
didn't
say,
hear you.
hey, we're building a skills trail and a new beginner trail, you know, suddenly people are like, oh, I want to go see that, and, yeah, and so, you know, like this guy who I met at the Cabot Kingdom Trails, who said, hey, I live in Weare and I'm moving, tired of driving my bike around to go bike other places, you know, and I mean, that's just one person.
That's what Bill said, is that
Yeah.
they don't have anything to offer, so there's no club here, there's no reason for them to be one, for there to be a club until there's a trail. And that was sort of my point. You get a trail, and you get some users, and then you'll get some motivation around it, and kind of getting a sense of the user groups, and you know, certain user groups are more inclined to volunteer because that's how they get trails historically. And others are more inclined to use whatever's out there because it doesn't really matter what they're on.
What's that?
So you kind of get a sense once you
That
have
happens.
something on the ground who's going to be interested.
I mean, the Appalachian Mountain Club is a hiking club. It's It's not a small one.
Well, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's,
It's,
and there's fewer small hiking clubs now because other people sort of either maintain it or it disappears.
that's right.
And so,
There's not many really.
Maintenance. Is it fair to say that if you haven't done it by the third season, you're in trouble?
So there's annual maintenance that pretty much needs to happen twice a year, and that's like your blowdowns and making sure that your drainages are clear. Um,
New growth.
Right.
Yeah, and new growth. I
Poison
mean,
ivy
some trails, it
control.
depends on how, it depends on what kind of trail you're building, because if it's a smaller corridor, you're not opening up the canopy, so you're not inviting more growth, right? So if you're not clearing out a lot of trees,
Mhm.
there's not as much, because your understory so it really depends. It
Mhm.
really depends.
But yeah, I would say you're right. After 3 years, you're
My
not gonna see
experience
much.
is 2 years is very easy.
Yeah.
Third year, it's no more hand loppers and
Mhm.
some chainsaw work. So the maintenance is something to think about.
Mhm.
And I mean, and then if you're going through areas that have been logged recently, then you have all that
Yep.
other kind of growth to
Yep.
deal with, so. Yeah. But if it's built correctly, it's really like, the maintenance is pretty light. And maintenance stays maintenance and not reconstruction without an event.
But that's as long as maintenance is done consistently.
Right.
And to Bill's point, I think he's thinking about this, consistent maintenance, and we don't know if our people are going to be willing to do that quite yet. So it's again, we have to study, look into, and
They have to
see
care.
how motivated are you
You
to,
won't know until they have a place
right,
to go. Poor Farm probably is not a great example because it's not very well advertised. And perhaps if it was, it would get more.
and is that something that, that's gonna be the other piece of the puzzle? Are we gonna have to start doing, advertising it a tad bit, and then is that our purview? And
Well,
a whole bunch
I
of
think
alligators are
I think
coming out
Andy's
here.
idea of a forum
Well, trails end up, there's website for trails, plenty
Okay.
that have, all different regions, that one in New Hampshire, pops up, and you could be looking for
What was the
trails.
movie
PLC
there?
advertises your trails.
was the ball field out there.
Right. If you build them, they will come.
Yeah, if you build them, they'll come.
Trails of Dreams?
Yeah.
Yeah, field, yeah, trails. That's a good name, project.
So we like what we see, and now we need to think about how we're gonna proceed.
Well, one thing on Sinuosity, they're gonna just take care of a couple things,
Mhm.
and then draft turns to final. Yeah. So that's a big deal. And then, what's next step for this body?
Can either think about just implementing or go the form route. I'm a little concerned with the form, just about getting off on tangents. I think we already made
Yeah.
a lot of management decisions, honestly. There's not a lot gained. Just kind of my thought.
It becomes an arguing match of who wants what.
I don't know, arguing, but then just,
Really honestly, if you manage it correctly, you just sit there and listen.
yeah.
You don't argue back. Listen.
Are you really intending to change anything in the plan at this point? Because I like it the way it is. I'm not too excited about anything really expansive. I think the one thing we do need to figure out, that I'm not sure we've got enough of leveraging funding, for trail building. How do we, because we've got funds, but if a trail project's $50,000 and we can just use 25 and get 25 from the state, what's the timeline on doing that? Who do we get to, it's like, how do we approach
Yeah,
that?
so there is a funding page in there that actually I want to update because I was doing another plan in New Hampshire a couple days ago, and they gave me a bunch of new
Good.
things. So a few of those will probably apply for you guys. So that's something that I want to do to update. And I have some of the deadlines with those as well. In terms of there's a deadline coming up really soon for, I think it was the RTP deadline, and without looking at this, just off the top of my head. So you'd want to wait till next year for that. But sort of thinking about, the nice thing about this is that you're kind of ready to go in terms of seeing the funding opportunities and seeing sort of what fits. And so within that list, there's different funding that's available for sort of different user groups. So then that's the other thing too about having a trail that sort of highlights certain user groups versus others. For instance, there's work that needs to be done on the snowmobile trail, whether you want to pay for it or not, or whether the snowmobile folks do it. There is funding in particular on the list that's for snowmobile trails.
What are you, the president, Phil? Yeah, he's the president, so.
Now, do you
Get on
write
it,
the
Bill.
grants or do we?
I have written grants in the past. We don't write grants for sinuosity most of the time because it's a conflict of interest.
So for funding, we
thing.
need to start beefing up on knowing how to do those, write those appropriately to approach getting funding.
So what I can help with is, and this would be sort of moving on from here. I can definitely help with language. We definitely help people with language in terms of, but a lot of it is that a lot of the language is in the 65 pages of the report in terms of, the things that they're asking for have already been prepared. It's when you don't have a plan and you try to write a grant for a trail, it just doesn't.
Well, Sherry's
Yeah.
written grants and I've written grants.
Generally language about how the trails are built and what their characters are and what considerations are made for all the aspects.
And so literally just cutting and pasting out of there, would be, kind of the report would be very helpful. That whole page on, the whole special considerations section is actually kind of there.
And then what's the
partially for that
justification,
purpose.
and where is it going to be, who's it serving? So,
Yeah.
like Mariah said, you have a good head start for grant
Yeah.
writing.
Speak, Oracle.
I'm clear what you guys are doing. I am not 100% clear what we're doing for our next step.
I don't know that you need to know that right now, do you?
We need to set expectations for how we're going to transition into our next action point.
Do we need to do that tonight? Can we digest what we've seen?
Of course.
I'm just asking, I'm not demanding, it's just, it's a lot that's
So,
come through for some
our
of us. It's been-
expectation in a month's time,
Yes,
we're prepared to
make a recommendation.
make a recommendation, make a motion, make an action.
Mhm.
Anybody feel like he or she would not be ready for that in a month's time?
Yeah.
I think that's good, because by that time, if I have questions, I'll be calling one
Right.
of you.
Right.
Let's open a day rifle and let's get Phil with a muzzle loading tag and
Mm-hmm.
probably not gonna see me.
So many deer. So many turkeys this year.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Aren't they great?
Crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Not enough deer though.
Come to our house. Shoot all the deer.
Really?
We were.
I'm old enough to use a crossbow in Vermont. You got plenty in there? I might take you up on that.
All over my garden. They're fed on organic, hopefully not organic Brussels sprouts after.
Yeah, we'll give you 15 Vermont. use a
Just makes them
crossbow.
tastier.
Yeah.
They better be.
Here it's like you need your AARP
Yeah.
card to use a crossbow, or old one.
Okay, so we're going to discuss it at our next meeting, correct? We're in consensus for that? Terrific.
Thank you.
Yes.
You've,
That's
you've helped us immensely. I hope it's been worthwhile
Yeah.
for you.
It was exciting when, like I said, when it comes together, it's always one of those things where you're just saying
Mhm.
no, 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 and you're like, where's my yes?
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's exciting. Okay, we just have to pack up the projector. Thank you all very much.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, this is your bed. Yeah.
Good work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Drive safely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Be well.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, good to meet you.
Nice
right.
to meet you.
Thank you.
So Laura, you're gonna take this one,
Yes,
and you're gonna
please.
bring it back
Yes,
in a month.
yes. Gloria's lots of
What's
questions.
the
And we'll
If
be
you don't want one, I'll
sending
take
you
it.
shape files as well.
Yeah, thanks.
And you're taking these, right?
Yep. Yep.
Now, do we have something about the town meeting, or selecting meeting or something? we need to discuss?
Yes, we do have a couple items to continue with. Other items, Collins Ledge. We've had,
Yeah, I'm gonna update you on that.
that
So
would be great.
That's the annual, that's just a reminder to monitor. So the, we got threatened by them over the whole abandoned easement and completely forgot that we had Jeremy or MTL go out there and take a look at the boundaries. And so Jeremy forwarded that to Naomi Hole, whatever her name is. And so they're all set with that. And then I emailed her back about, because they asked if we'd done anything yet in 2018. And I said no. And so I'd asked Jeremy to provide a FSA to manage getting a survey done. He didn't get a chance to get it done in time for this meeting. And so the only real conundrum right now is that Board of Selectmen's meeting kind of get jumped by John Osborne about town purchasing policy, which going back to Fred Francesco, we never have to follow the town purchasing policy. So the complication there is great. We want to do that. Then we end up, none of us probably have the time to get 3 quotes and all that stuff. So we pay Jeremy to go get 3 quotes to, to save $10 or whatever it ends up being. Or however they work that. I don't have to do a sealed bid. I don't even know the town purchasing policy off the top of my head. So anyhow, so my thought is, and going back to the Forest Society, I emailed Naomi back and said, to me, there's not a lot of sense going out there and trying to monitor something we don't know where half the boundaries are.
Mhm.
Seems like kind of a headache. So it'd be better to get a surveyor out there to set the boundaries. Then, I also hit them up. I said, hey, by the way, did you guys do any due diligence when you took this executory interest? Because what we're finding here is we've got a lot of really bad older easements where no one went out and walked and checked to make sure that the pins were actually set.
Right.
Kind of ridiculous, So nowadays that probably wouldn't happen, but so I didn't get anything back from her yet on that. So that'd be my thought is let's try to get the price on the survey, and it's a pretty big parcel, so it's kind of miserable to be wasting money on surveying an easement. But
Well, even the town doesn't consistently follow their policies.
yeah, I don't know how we're gonna sidestep that. Yeah, we also got there was mention of submitting the our annual warrant article through capital improvements. I was like, yeah, that's
No.
because we're just drawing out of an account. That's not something you have to budget for, so it didn't seem like a good
Cemetery
good match.
doesn't go through capital improvements. There's no reason for that.
Yeah, I don't think so with ours
No.
either.
About 5 years ago, I filled out all the forms in preparation for a meeting. It was a huge waste of time.
Yeah, that's a lot
When you get to the point
Yeah.
of does not apply, does not apply, does not apply, it's an exercise in compliance for no.
And they don't control our fund. They don't control how it's spent.
Well, and then Rick Hipler was like, oh yeah, in the meetings and like whatever morning, he was like, yeah, I'm not going to that. But the
Yeah, the CIP meets on a Tuesday morning.
so the problem ended up being that there was confusion over our warrant article last year. That's what the bottom line was there, I think. So they just want to make sure someone
Is there?
is that deliberative. Which, much like deer season, that's ice fishing season.
It's okay.
We've been there
My
though.
family's birthday season.
I'll be there because I have to be there for finance committee.
Yeah, and they said they have the finance committee. I mean, we've got, on any big items with, we've gone to the finance committee in the past, but then the finance committee, was kind of gone for a year or two, wasn't it? A few years ago, it wasn't long.
Before I got here,
Yeah.
yes, and we,
Yeah. So, and then, so you want to go on to a couple other easement issues?
It's all in the other items portion of the meeting, so yes.
Okay, so the Eastman, it sounds like maybe the tent's still there, because the police were supposed to go grab the tent. I asked the Board of Selectmen if we could just go rip up a tent, and they said
no.
they didn't know. Yeah, it sounded like, so we probably have to go to town attorney.
So somebody is squatting on our property?
Well, so there was...
Say tenting, and leaving the tent set up.
Yeah, so
Can people camp on our property? Is that
No.
legal?
Well,
Permission, landowner permission required.
Did we
Yeah.
grant anybody permission?
no.
Okay.
So anyhow, what's going on there is we've got that lot that was sold to two individuals, and they went in there and so they cleared it. There's some logs still kind of straddling.
We
unfortunately-
had our boundary blazed and
so you probably
well set.
Yes. So the problem is they have access rights through that road.
The drive, yeah.
And so they've logged it, and they've stacked a bunch of pine logs on our mutual boundary. So those need to go.
Mhm.
And the silly thing is, if you're going to sell the logs, you need to do it immediately because the borer is getting
They
into it
drop.
and it's worthless. But, so I don't know how those were actually, if there was a skidder. I didn't see any skidders or anything. And then they parked there was concern from the easement monitor because he thought there's a camper trailer, but that's actually on their land. But then there was a flatbed trailer that was on our land. So I took a picture of the plate and stopped by the police station, and they ran it. It belonged to some petroleum company from Merrimack. And then, so apparently that guy, Walt, or whatever his name is, works for that company. So he was supposed to get that out of there. It should be gone. But then we got an email today that there was a tent out there still, so I'm not sure if that was based on someone took a walk a few days ago. That I got to check with the officer that I talked to there.
Who's the officer?
Brandon, my pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah, he was working on it. So he said he was going to get the tent, and they were going to just throw it in police evidence.
Okay.
So that's that issue. That was PLC. Then the other issue that we got going is the former SHB property. So it's interesting when we're talking about getting land use to do something today. I talked to Tom Carr this morning about potentially giving us a price to go ahead and mark our easement, which was conveyed in 2007. So we own an easement on the Cortland Ave, which is right down there off 114. That's currently under construction. And we talked about, I think we maybe talked about this briefly in another meeting. But anyway, I called Tom to see if they give, Meridian would give us a price because they did that whole development. And Tom said, "Oh, by the way, the log are cut on the easement too." I'm like, well, it's a no-cut easement. So what are we going to do with that? So we need to, we need to figure that out. And then I don't know if we're gonna. I don't know what the damages would be because essentially it says that all natural habitat has to be preserved. It's a really lousy, poorly worded easement. It's in the deed, but it was conveyed to the town in 2007, so we've got responsibility on that.
Yeah.
Tom hasn't got back to me on the actual going out there and putting signs up. And then it was funny. I was talking to Wendy today about, like, hey, can Chip go out there and verify that all the monuments are in place? Oh, no, Chip doesn't do that. Okay.
Yeah, he stopped in. He was looking for you earlier.
That's what I called about, yeah. So, I don't know. And then she said, oh, go to a planning board meeting. And I'm just like, I'm burnt with meetings. I'm not going to another meeting. But someone has got to check these things. So we have been, we've also had, what's the one that, what's his name owns there? The Tebow. Yeah, so Duck Pond's conveyed to the town, there's not a monument out there. How, I don't get how we can, allow anything to be conveyed without,
Do we have
one
somebody
was
that
conveyed?
normally hikes
Yeah.
this stuff to make sure the monuments are in place?
well,
Or am I making this, I know in Dunbarton where I lived, they had somebody that did it all every year. Do we not do that, or we do not have a person that does that?
no, so what we've done is, we're in the process of straightening out all of our messes. So we started with town forest, got them all blazed up, got all the monuments either verified or placed.
Okay.
So this just all costs money. So yeah, the short answer is pay someone like Jeremy to go out there and do it. So in this case, it's like, but it's miserable when you're doing it on stuff you don't even own. It costs a lot of money to survey. You think like, so Collins is 164 acres, but Jeremy's report was like half the lines missing. And it's got a really poor shape to it. It's not like a big square that's 4 monuments. And then you go look at like, we got screwed by Holly Hill. They never set the pins, so we have to, didn't we pay to go get those pins set? Or do we ever take care of that? I forget what the outcome
I
was.
don't think we've done that one.
So that's still got the missing pins. We've got a problem down on, what's the one down on 114, a little further south?
Yeah, it's Eleanor Way, I think, is the
Yeah,
name of
it's-
the road down there.
So we have,
That one we did put a boatload of work into setting the boundaries.
Do we have a company we hire to do it, or do we do it?
we can't do that.
Oh, okay.
You need a surveyor, whatever surveyor. So Bob Todd's kind of out of business, he's done it. Meridian can do it, Art can do it, Dahlberg can do it, anybody can do it that
Okay.
has a license. But it's
We hire folks
Yeah.
to do that
Should
for us.
we- It's customary nowadays that before you get occupancy, that those things have to be in place. And is that, we're just guessing, can we get an answer from Chip that that's part of that program down there?
I think it actually goes back to planning, not to Chip, because I think we need to like get the town engineer,
Well,
since
see,
I was talking to Wendy
yeah,
about,
It's kind of out of planning's hands now, but is that a provision in that? I think it's a very standard thing nowadays. Is that plan old enough that it didn't have that in there?
It should have never been
When you're-
conveyed without it.
Right, but if,
Before you're
I
have a
think the
proper set-
standard way
the
of
property
doing
boundary
it is
established.
before you can get occupancy on that lot, all the pins have to be verified.
Yeah, the way they're doing that, Bill, though, they're chunking stuff up. So if this guy goes in and he's down there right now in the SHB subdivision, what you'll see when planning approves these things, they'll have to be set on the corners. Should have never been conveyed if it says to be set.
Yeah,
And
I know recently, though, just our little outline adjustment, we
Yeah.
absolutely had to have the pins before they okay that.
It was set.
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe that's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of these other ones.
Somebody on the planning, one of the guys on the planning board is adamant about that.
Yeah, that's good.
And that doesn't mean that it's happening down here, but we ought to ask whoever we have to ask. Are the bounds set?
Well-
And you shouldn't get an occupancy of that home until it's,
We beefed up the subdivision rules too. Because we went back to Craig on this, and they've got, that's got to be placard, on these conservation easements. These ones are roller though.
right, this is still an in-between.
This is a 2007. The other one's even, Duck Pond's older. That other one that we got punked on is older. It's 2000s maybe, the Holly Hill. Somewhere around there, maybe early 2000s.
Even if planning or Chip, whomever, has to go in and kind of renegotiate and say, look, this was, we have to have these in place.
You know what I would like to do tonight is just because this will involve spending a slight amount of money, is email Laura and ask, is it a given that we have the rights of blaze and easement, or, where we're just the easement holder? I was talking to Tom about that today, and he thought yes. I almost suspect, I don't know.
A lot depends on how that's worded.
No, it's not worded, not at all. I mean, it's not, nothing in the deed about blazing. So is that just a given or not? Because now all the Forest Society easements and PLC, I mean, that'll be in there, I believe.
You might want
You're
to
talking
add
in the situation where we aren't owners of the property?
No. So right now, Collins Ledge, we
Yeah.
send a surveyor in there, right? Ideally, this is just my viewpoint. If I'm gonna spend money on a survey, I'm gonna blaze that whole entire 164 acres. I'm gonna, make sure I have witness trees on every one of my monuments that I set.
Mhm.
That place is gonna be like, just like town forest, unmistakable.
Just like what folks got bent out of shape about with the easement.
Yes, absolutely. I'm gonna do that, then I'm gonna put up Conservation Commission easement signs, and I'm not gonna worry about it for another 10 years, having to go back and repaint that, because it's gonna be lit up like a Christmas tree when I'm done with it. There's no way you won't know you're walking across an easement.
Yeah.
And that's,
Are we, right, and so that's a question of where
You're better
we're
off
just,
to ask for get a legal
Yeah.
opinion
yeah, I
on it.
mean, whether or not that's inherently allowed,
It's better to be safe than sorry.
or even, like, what are we allowed to do? Can we put up, because these old easements didn't even say we can put up signs. We've got those little Conservation Commission signs. We need to do that. Those signs won't last as long as blazes. I mean,
Yeah.
blazes you can find 20 years later because of the wound, on the tree. And then going forward, I mean, we should never take anything that doesn't allow blazing.
Correct. So do you need a motion to send a letter to Laura to get her opinion on that?
No, I think Andy can just send an email, or I'll send her an email. I mean, it doesn't.
Right.
We're all good with it. I mean,
yeah.
I
just
think
got
it's
it
a
in the
smart
minutes.
thing to do.
Yeah. So I can give her a couple deed numbers too, just say, hey, we're looking at having to go in and survey this to protect our rights. And then, so that we got that kind of going on. And then my other thought was, I think we need to send a letter. I think PLC's going to send a letter to that guy Walter as well. He lives on, they live on the end of Pondview. They
Okay.
rent that house there, that white one. It's like the first one coming up the hill.
Yep.
It's that guy there that bought that lot.
Why are we sending a letter?
Just let him know, don't leave your stuff on town land.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's nice that he bought the lot, in Eastman, good for him, but respect our boundaries, are all
Right.
well marked. So just a little reminder that
Yeah.
he doesn't have permission to do anything there on
Oh,
town
that's
land.
correct.
So I can draft something up for you, Andy, if that's,
So that'd be something to drop in the paper mail.
yeah.
Yeah, you drafted, I'll finish off with it.
Yeah, it'd be easy enough. Just hopefully they get the message, we're not messing around. Because that easement monitor over there is on the ball, to say the least. Because I've driven up in there, and that is the parking area, and he's like, reported that someone's driving, I'm like, yeah, no kidding, it's the parking area. He's the guy that's seen, someone out there with a Jeep before. It seems like anything that happens there, he seems to pick up on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting stuff. But we never really verified on Eleanor Way if those improvements were removed or not. You might want to send Jeremy back down
You're talking the utilities?
there. Yeah, they have to go by law. I mean, they can't stay. The other problem, Jeremy,
No.
I was thinking we had that problem where the trees got removed and the boundary wasn't really marked.
Mhm.
And I wonder if should we just go with like stake and stones or something, or add something in there, because we never really kind of finished that part of that project. We talked to the landowners and we told them they had to get their stuff out of there. But we're used to dealing with forests for the most part, but we should almost come up with, I think stake and stones is kind of pretty traditional, or, because I think if I remember back, Jeremy was saying, they're worried about maybe liability if you just put up like an iron pipe or something, every so often.
If we put it next to a boulder.
I think there was nothing there though,
Right.
something was obliviated. But we kind of get this inherent duty to enforce these easements.
Yes, we do. Getting back to your other issue where they went and cut on the easement. They logged on an easement?
No, that was his property.
Okay.
So the thing, yeah, the only thing I didn't get a chance.
We might be talking two different things. The guy next to Eastman logged his own property.
Yeah, he might have cut a few trees that are on the right of way,
But what you had mentioned earlier in talking with Tom today was
oh,
that
that one, yeah.
there
Yeah,
was
where the
cutting
tent is.
on our in fee,
The SHP
our
property.
our town-owned buffer, or town-owned open space around the Cortland Ave subdivision. Up there, the
Did they
SHP
convey the easement or did they convey the property?
property on that one, I
I
believe.
think you had said years past the property.
I got the deed right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got my phone. Let's see if I can read this. Yeah, that's a good question. So if they had the right to do some stuff, but I think what Tom said is they did it by accident.
It doesn't matter. Accountability is everything.
No, what I'm saying is that in the deed they had rights to make some alterations, that were related. They had some reserve rights related to the
Related to the access road
yeah.
Right.
and slope easements.
Mm-hmm.
But if they went beyond that scope,
That's weird. This phone can't deal with it. It's like this windmill file.
Not that it,
Yeah, I'm gonna try to open it up and forward this here. I just sent it to you. The deed's right there.
thinking about it. Unless your name's Norton, I haven't received it yet.
Do we know where that infringement might have happened?
No, you just mentioned probably all over it. I guess. Yeah, that's kind of a horror show.
Which one you looking for?
Right there, the PDF's the deed. Hurry up, it's almost bedtime.
Yeah.
Give your computer a kick.
That's not good.
Let's just double click it and recognize the PDF.
It's recognized in preview. I'm looking.
Can't read that small. Huh?
No, it's not. Oh, translating for some reason. SHB properties, having a place of business, gives with warranty covenants that town aware, acting through the Conservation Commission. An open space easement situated in Weare, New Hampshire, identified as lot 411-152-15, open space, designated on the plan and recorded as such.
Yeah, that's just an easement.
Structure improvement, no filling, no outdoor advertising, there shall be no lighting. The right and easement to construct, maintain, repair, replace slope drainage, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so it's.
This is a transfer to a municipality under RSA except for real estate tax.
So there's nothing about being able to log it in there, and it's maintaining, habitat.
Well, yeah, I guess that.
What does it say?
It says that we just have the easement on a lot.
To do what?
To maintain in perpetuity as open space without there being constructed any industrial, commercial, or residential, conducted any industrial, commercial, or residential activities. Passive, low impact, non-commercial recreational uses are permitted, provided that the scenic characteristics of the property should not be degraded by these activities. The property shall not be subject to to the following restrictions that are for the benefit of the lot shown on the subdivision plan. Not subdivided. No structures. No soil disturbance. No advertising. No mining, quarrying, or excavating. No dumping or burning. No use of motorized vehicles. No overnight camping or campfires. All trails shall be designed to minimize impact on the house lot shown on the subdivision plan. Hunting is only allowed through written permission of the property owner. All right, well, I stand corrected. That was clearly not property. That was solely easement.
Yeah, it's just something in there about maintaining natural habitat.
Can you send a copy of that to me?
So we essentially need to nail down where it is and what was done.
Yep. We need to take pictures and we need to address it. Since we're stewards, we have to protect what we have.
Leftovers from development are really bad, not working out too well. So we get a price from Tom. I don't know if we should get any other prices. Go from there.
All right, so, but it applies equally there. Even if the bounds are there, even if the trees are there, can we blaze an easement? Right? Does that not apply to this?
Well, we could put the signs up. I mean, I think I asked him for price to blaze and put the signs up. But I mean, he knows the guy, so if the guy gives him permission, then yeah, it's done deal.
I told the guy the soil wasn't contaminated. There've been no study before, so a little bit very glad you're making all these connections, because I've been burned royally on this one.
It just kind of gets to be more of a mess. It was kind of funny when I was talking to Wendy about, you know, if Chip could go out there. She's like, I went out there and went up to my knees in mud, and I'm like, what the heck were you doing up there? She had to like give out street numbers. Nice. Pretty funny.
All right, so we've got some action items. Regarding the new landowner and having some junk on on the easement, you're gonna send me some draft language, which I will email. I'll send mail to the property owner on.
I'm gonna email Laura.
Collins, you're gonna email Laura.
And Jeremy's coming up with.
Has there anything been sent to any reply to Spiniff? Any correspondence from Jeremy to them, or you to them, or anyone?
Yeah, we got an email from Naomi, and remember we just talked about that. They asked if we had monitored during 18.
So you got the "we're working on it" word over.
Yeah.
Good. And what you're gonna get a quote estimate from Meridian on that issue. What about the other sort of bigger reason why you went to Board of Selectmen for us?
Oh yeah, that.
On the you know, trying to designate or remove lots from the pending
That was a good
sale.
That was a problem, wasn't it?
Yeah, they're hell bent on selling as much as they possibly can.
Regardless of any information we might provide and recommendation.
Yeah, they were talking about. So it was kind of like almost sort of a deadlock, you know, 2-2, because Jack wasn't there, and then they talked about pulling the water, the one that accesses the check dam there at Horse Lake, and you know, for the marsh. And I think one other one they were talking about maybe pulling off the list, but that was about it.
The two that are off is the check dam
Yeah.
and the thing at Daniels Lake.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I acquired an easement on both of them for the snowmobile club.
How'd you get an easement?
Shoot down. Yeah.
They just gave you an easement? Oh. Huh.
If they're being taken off the list, don't they come under our purview?
No, they're just, we'd have to do a warrant article.
Okay.
So, you know, that was the whole gist of that whole list would be to do a warrant article. Yeah, I don't
And
know.
out of that list, it wasn't. Well, okay, well, that's good to know.
Wasn't my first time.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
All right, the only other thing I have here is from Jeremy. We got an invoice for tree marking paint used in August.
Yeah, he was doing the public notice for the Belch Farm harvest, by the way, which is a really big harvest. I think he's going to have some pretty good attention for that one.
Could you
Is the old just
approve that, and we'll get that.
where the gravestones are, is that protected? Jeremy knows about them and all
I don't even know where they are.
You're talking Felch?
that. Yeah.
Usually, like, we mark, you know, if there's something we know about, we stay away
I
from
went
it.
out to them years ago, and they're just there.
Yeah, I don't know where they are.
It's,
I thought that got into the forestry plan. And
Are those ones?
That really was my question, is Charlie Brown showed them to me.
If he knew about them, they're on the plan. If not,
That, you know, we just want
I thought we had a discussion. I mean, there were cellar holes, and I thought it was more than cellar holes that he was aware of, and said, you know, we'll.
just email. When you go home, just email them. Send them an email.
okay.
Yeah, just so nobody
Yep.
forgets. Just make sure you,
You know, it'd be a terrible thing. to try
if
to
not, you
skid
just
over
go out there where the
Right.
shower is and just flag it
I
off.
don't know that I could find it again. It's probably
Well,
been
who, do the
20
trustees
years.
of the cemeteries know where it is, or?
I would doubt it.
Really? Yeah, because there's some burial somewhere in Eastman too, and I have no idea where that is. I know where the old teller hole is, but,
No, I just remember Charlie Brown taking me out and said, no, the old Buck Felch
yeah.
must have liked this spot. And it's just a little man-made stone.
Who's there, just him?
Him and his wife, I think.
Oh, yeah, well, that's cool.
Stones around or anything?
That could be a tough one. Hey, I hate to go pounding through there with a skidder and dig that
Yeah,
up.
I'll send something to Jeremy. And just make sure he is aware of it.
Might be good to find out. I mean, do you have a rough idea where it was?
Oh, yeah. Yep. I bet I could get the same guy that showed me to show me again.
Yeah, I don't remember ever talking about that one. That would be bad though. It'd be good to know
Yep.
where it is and flag it off. You know what we could do too is you get out there and like down to the I've seen at least at Eglin, like some of those kinds of sites, they'll actually band the trees in purple. You know, so it's.
He could probably do something.
But I mean, just for so
Yeah.
we know
Yep.
for
Yeah, it was up on quite
future.
a ridge, and then we're looking down. And it was probably at one time a pretty neat spot.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's take. Don't
Yep.
forget.
Anybody have anything else for tonight's meeting?
No, I think we killed enough things.
I'll head out to just take a peek at what's going on East Shore Drive there in Horace Lake. Just get some eyes on it.
Yeah.
Yes, the rain started. Leave my truck open. All right. Anybody got that beautiful final motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second it? Anybody?
Second.
All right. Bill was a whisker quick on that. You gotta have to work on that, Mike. All right. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Adjourn at 9:57.